providing new opportunities to those who are willing to embrace technology. Digital transformation will impact the economic development as well as social well-being of every community. It will challenge the government's capability to provide its services in a larger and complex economy. For that reason, Idecs becomes the cornerstone for all of us to learn and adopt new digital technologies, skills, and know-how so that we all can benefit from the digital economy. Ladies and gentlemen, today we face one of the significant global challenges of our generation, COVID-19 pandemic. It has, without doubt, having severe economic and social impacts affecting our social interaction as people's livelihood. However, we are fortunate that we had embarked on a digital transformation journey in 2017 as part of our digital economy strategy, and thankfully are able to manage the devastating impact of COVID-19 in our daily lives and interaction. For example, our digital readiness was recently highlighted when Sarawak Disaster Management Committee, SDMC, was awarded the Malaysian Technology Excellence Award by the Singapore Business Review for utilizing digital technology to control the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in Sarawak. Congratulations to the committee. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Asian Development Bank, ADB, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic could result in the loss of approximately US 5.8 trillion to US 8.8 trillion. COVID-19 will have permanent long-term effects on how economies and financial system operate in the future. We are no longer able to do business as usual. Advancing into the future, Sarawak needs to enhance its productivity to remain competitive, at the same time create a clean, healthy, and resilient environment that will last for generations. On 6 May 2020, along with my cabinet, I established the Sarawak Economic Action Council, SEAC, to formulate the state government's post-COVID-19 exit economic strategy 2030. Let me share with you my vision for Sarawak. Namely, by 2030, Sarawak will be a developed state with a thriving economy driven by data and innovation, where everyone enjoys economic prosperity, social inclusivity, and a sustainable environment. In arriving at Sarawak vision, it is not only about economic growth, but it is also about cascading the wealth and prosperity equitably and sustainably to all the people of Sarawak. I would like to sincerely thank the SEAC members, ministers, the working committees comprising of government officers and private sector for your commitments and efforts in developing the post-COVID-19 exit economic strategy to accelerate our economic growth plan. Ladies and gentlemen, let me briefly touch on the three pillars. Firstly, the economic prosperity. In order to achieve a high income and advanced state by 2030, we will need to achieve an economic growth rate of 8% annually. To double the size of our economy from RM 133 billion in 2018 to 282 billion ringgit by 2030. Sarawak's 14 sectors have been grouped into 8 economic and 6 enabler sectors and are considered from multifaceted angles to identify catalytic initiatives that will drive the sectors to have a high economic, social, and environmental impact. The following 8 economic sectors will be the primary growth engines, namely commercial agriculture and commodities, concentrating on smart precision farming, manufacturing, transforming to Industry 4.0, forestry with a focus on reforestation, tourism with efforts to increase visitor economy, mining and its exploration towards a downstream value chain, renewable energy and potential of hydrogen, biomass and solar energy. Services and access to affordable and quality of services. These economic sectors are in turn driven by the 6 enabler sectors, namely digital transformation, innovation and entrepreneurship, education, infrastructure, transport and utilities. The focus will be on lifting existing productivity levels significantly across all sectors of the economy through the adoption of digital technology, data, and innovation. We envisage our exports will increase about 3 times, supported by more high value added products created from our manufacturing, agriculture, forestry, and mining sectors. The government will help the private sectors grow their respective industries and expect the private sectors will respond by investing and do more in the sectors that are the state's focus. Our focus will not be only on growing GDP, but also how the growth is translated to every Sarawakian. We want to significantly increase the average household income from the current ringgit 5,000 to ringgit 16,000 per month by 2030, which is a tall order, which will put Sarawak ahead of Malaysia as a whole. Secondly, the inclusive society. The history of previous industrial revolutions suggests that if factors related to social inequality are not appropriately addressed, then there is a risk of social and digital divide. According to Digital Inclusion Index report, the socio-demographic cohorts that are most digitally excluded comprise of people in low-income household, people with special needs such as disability, people who did not finish secondary school education, indigenous communities, and people who are not employed. I want our initiative and projects to be people or community-centric. The distribution of wealth to the community must be equitable for both in urban and rural setting. Income gap will need to be reduced with an improved GINI or Gini coefficient. Also, the low-income household percentage in Sarawak is currently 53%. This has to be addressed holistically. In 10 years, we will have to reduce this significantly. For every Sarawakian, access to social services will need to be improved. We also must not forget the vulnerable segments of our society. Everyone, including our special needs community, will be taken care of. Finally, our third pillar, environmental sustainability. Sarawak is our home. We must keep it clean and healthy for current and future generations. That is why I have decided that environmental sustainability will be a key principle for our economy. We will continue our reforestation effort to increase forest cover. We will also enhance our policies and regulatory framework that make sure they are enforced. For example, our agricultural and mining activities will be monitored and certified. We will harness our rich biodiversity of Sarawak, considered one of the richest in the world, with research in our flora and fauna to build a sustainable industry such as pharmaceutical, bioactives, etc. Finally, we will invest in technology and innovation that can ensure our economic activities are sustainable. By 2030, we want to achieve a world-class recognition for biodiversity conservation and protected areas management. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the SEAC strategy was to identify a number of catalytic initiatives that will propel Sarawak's economic growth to 8% annually, thus achieving Sarawak's 2030 vision. These initiatives have gone through an intensive prioritization process that was anchored on 6-day principles: improve economic structure and environment that will lead us towards an export-led economy that emphasizes significant increases in productivity and downstream activities. Ease of doing business, we aim to provide a fair and competitive playing field through holistic policies and efficient approval processes. This is vital to attract investment and retain quality industry players in all sectors. Targeted spending. We emphasize on ensuring that finances are allocated towards initiatives that cater to what matters most. For example, an improvement in physical and digital connectivity, we would have a record-getting positive impact throughout the state. Asset optimization and funding, so that we have efficiently made use of our existing asset instead of building new structures and developing creative financial models to optimize cash flow. We must strike a balance between physical infrastructure and targeted programs that complete these structures. Digital government, with primary focus on further improving and developing our government services to be a catalyst for our economy and our monitoring capabilities to ensure the rigorous monitoring of initiative using technology. Social and economic inclusivity for all segments of society, including B40, M40, and the rest. There must be initiatives that create opportunities with lower barriers of entry for the rakyat and address impoverished segment of our society. The initiative will cover support of financial growth for the poor and shelters for our fellow Sarawakians in need. Ladies and gentlemen, as already mentioned, our post-COVID-19 economic growth will be driven by data and innovation. As such, digital economy is the key to achieving our 2030 economic agenda. In 2017, I initiated the Sarawak Digital Economy, soon taking over, and Sarawak Digital Economy Strategy 2018 to 2022 was launched in December 2017. The strategy saw the progress in digitalizing our economy and was also put under test and has successfully addressed most of the issues raised by COVID-19 pandemic. As always with any strategy, certain aspects such as digital sovereignty, interoperability, ease of doing business, cyber security, digital readiness, and supporting digital transformation of the private sector could be further strengthened to accelerate our post-COVID-19 economic agenda. In 2017, the state government established the Sarawak Multimedia Authority under the Sarawak Multimedia Authority Ordinance 2017, a regulatory body to administer and manage the development and execution of the communication and multimedia policies to lead the Sarawak's digital economy agenda. SMA will also be responsible for digital infrastructure, government data management, and cyber security. The following key agencies are part of the Sarawak digital economy ecosystem, responsible for the implementation of the digital economy strategies. They are Sarawak Digital Economy Corporation, SDEC, entrusted to lead the implementation of Sarawak digital economy initiatives focusing on private sector economy. Sarawak Information System Science, entrusted to lead the implementation of Sarawak Digital Economy Initiative focusing on government services, and Centex Digital Academy, entrusted to provide industry-relevant training and skill development in digital and data science, focusing on school leavers, graduates, industry employees to meet the workforce needs of digital economy. As part of the digital economy strategy, I had announced that the state government would be rolling out SMA 300 telecommunication tower initiatives. Today, I'm pleased to report that 184 of these towers have been completed and the remaining 116 are expected for completion by the third quarter of 2021. On 26 September 2020, I launched our first fully operational tower telecommunication service at Luban Ulu, Betong. The rural community there will now enjoy 3G and 4G service. compared to the edge service in the past. And this will be duplicated in underserved areas throughout Sarawak through this SMA 300 initiative. Putting up towers hasn't been without the challenge. It doesn't mean that the government can simply put up a tower as we like, no matter how well intended the project is to the underserved community. We had to go through great effort to get the buy-ins of landowners and acquire land where the potential sites were identified. Then, there are still relevant laws and regulatory processes to comply with. Furthermore, the project has been delayed owing to the COVID-19 Pandemic Movements Control Order, MCO. Despite current handicaps, the Sarawak government has the political will to enhance connectivity through new policies and initiatives. For example, the state government has allocated 3 million to upgrade internet connectivity in 9 national parks of Sarawak. We have completed the first for Semenggok Orangutan Rehabilitation Center. At the national level, I have a discussion with the Federal Minister of Communication and Multimedia for SMA, the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, to have closer collaboration to address internet connectivity issues for Sarawak. SMA and MCMC have agreed in principle on the urgent need to accelerate broadband connectivity to underserved areas in Sarawak. The rollout of the additional Phase 2 SMA 300 towers is still in the planning stage. However, upon completion, the 600 towers will complement the existing National Privatization and Connectivity Plan, Jandela, initiative by the federal government that include 636 new towers. Thus, the strategic partnership will realize the state vision of achieving 99.9% broadband coverage throughout Sarawak. To accelerate internet connectivity to underserved rural communities, the Sarawak government has established free Wi-Fi connectivity for a number of kampongs and longhouses. Through this initiative, each kampong will share a bandwidth of 30 Mbps. To date, 20 kampongs, longhouses have been digitally connected to access internet, government services, as well as Sarawak Pay. Last month, I also announced and allocated additional 15 million ringgit for the installation of mini satellite station, VSAT, to further improve connectivity in underserved rural areas. I believe that installing VSAT station is the best way to solve the problem of poor internet connectivity in rural areas quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned earlier, data is an increasingly valuable economic entity, but only once it has been converted into business intelligence and insight that can generate revenue. The economic value is conventionally associated with the production and services. It is the conversion of the raw materials into goods and services that produces revenue which can be shared across the community. In the new business model for digital economy, the true promising and emerging areas that are driving the value creation of platform economy and monetization of data. Digital platforms are the primary element in digital economy, while data is a vital resource that can lead to value creation. Besides the importance of data and its flow in the ecosystem, the other aspect of data-driven economy is the study, design, development, testing, production, and sales of packaged digital data in the form of knowledge and information products and services that can be monetized to meet local and global demands. Data-driven economic growth requires information system to function as an integrated whole with interoperability between different organizations and information systems. The commercial and social values of data can be maximized when the databases in public and databases in the private sectors can be integrated and the required data are able to be shared to create value. This will require the provision of open interface by each system so that as the system can access the required shareable data accordingly. This approach would synergize the potential values of data in the digital economy ecosystem and facilitate, support, and accelerate the growth of the economy. An example of such an open interface is that of Sarawak's government digital wallet platform known as the Sarawak Pay. The Sarawak Pay platform interface is open to merchants to integrate the application system with Sarawak Pay to receive payment digitally from their customers who are also users of Sarawak Pay. Another example of the open interface is that of Sarawak's government single sign-on platform. It allows its user to register a unique digital identity, Sarawak ID, for subsequent access to the platform which holds all the available cumulative sets of online application. The concept of single sign-on is that with every single login to the platform using his or Sarawak ID, the user will be able to access all the application available on the platform, improving the ease of doing business with government. The Sarawak Government Open Data Platform also exploits open interfaces that are application programming interfaces or APIs for the public to access the available sets of data made available by the government. This will open up opportunities for the public and the private sectors and the partners to innovate and produce digital products and services for monetary purposes. I am hopeful that access to government data will accelerate the growth of data-driven startup in Sarawak. In 2019, Smart Exchange, a data sharing and integration platform, was implemented by Science to address the data sharing and system integration requirements for the government. This data sharing and integration platform with security controls built in will be used to share data among Sarawak government departments, agencies, and other external organizations such as federal government and private sector. To further enhance data-driven economic growth, the Sarawak government will continue to develop and enhance one, policies for public and private sector data access. Two, data center that will meet the data hosting requirements. Three, government open data platform. And four, big data and data analytic platform for data analysis, research, innovation, and commercialization. This will be addressed as part of the 2030 Digital Economy Strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, according to European Commission Cybersecurity Report, cybercrime will cost the world US 6.6 trillion by December 2020, due in part to the exploitation of the COVID-19 pandemic. This will be the largest transfer of economic wealth in history. Cybersecurity is no longer a technological option, but a societal need. It is not only about data and information protection, but includes critical infrastructure, transport system, societal aspect, and more. Cybersecurity is the heart of digital technological development. Disruptive technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, blockchain, and quantum will have an impact on the way cybersecurity will need to be achieved. Since cybersecurity risk cannot be completely eliminated, the question is how can they be mitigated? Cooperation and collaboration, knowledge and timely communication regarding the threats on how to address them will be an important step going forward. Education is of equal importance both for end users and for industries. Cultivating a security-conscious approach, such as security by design and security by default, will help to mitigate the risks at an early stage. Moreover, cyber attacks will still take place because cybercrime is a business. Therefore, it is crucial to be ready to face them with the lowest impact possible on the overall system. Moving forward, we need to utilize all the pillars, namely ethics, education, industry and digital services, research, a common culture of collaboration between public and private sectors, academia and community, talent and governance to be able to guarantee a secure digital society. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that Sarawakian will benefit from the digital economy, the digital community centers are being developed throughout the state to provide digital skills training and capacity building programs. This digital inclusivity initiative will help in developing local socio-economic sectors by empowering the community to benefit from the state digital transformation. It is hoped that this effort will create a sustainable and resilient community that is technologically savvy while maintaining their respective values and identity. The digital community centers are properly planned to provide positive impacts on people's overall quality of life. I hope that this initiative will be supported by all parties, and over time, the respective community would be able to thrive into a truly digital community as implied in the name of this project. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to translating technological innovation into a real business, technology is relatively easy to come by. It is the talent that is often the limiting factor. There is a significant skill gap between businesses' current capabilities and skill needed to achieve its goals and meet customer demand. Advancement in technology such as artificial intelligence AI, blockchain, Industry 4.0, nanotechnology, virtual and augmented reality, robotics, cybersecurity, and other emerging technologies are revolutionizing the nature of work, the dynamics of the workforce, and the skill set needed. For example, while AI creates new opportunities, the jobs will necessitate a separate set of skills. As new roles arise and job requirements fluctuate, the scope of the existing talent is skilled workers may not cope with the changing demand. It is very challenging for industries to future-proof their personnel just by simply hiring new employees. What is necessary is a holistic approach, an initiative that will equip the current workforce with necessary skills. Such initiative would require shared responsibility between corporations, government, and education providers. We also need to ensure that technological advances do not result in economic imbalance as lower-skilled employees become unemployed. In addition to digital skills, there is a strong demand for soft skills such as project management, decision-making, critical thinking, communication, design thinking, and negotiating, which will empower people to equip with the competencies of the digital revolution. To address these challenges, we need to invest more in reskilling and upskilling of our workforce. According to World Economic Forum, by 2020, 54% of all employees, i.e., more than half, will have to upgrade their skill significantly. Our universities, TVETs, and technical colleges are contributing to the skill needs for digital economy. To accelerate the skill needs, in 2019, the Sarawak government established Digital Academy at SENTEC to focus on skill development to meet the skill needs for the digital economy. The Academy's charter is research-driven industry, focus reskilling, skilling, and upskilling training, targeting school leavers, graduates, and industry employees. The Academy is established in partnership with global technology companies like Eon Reality, Huawei, and the others. This model will see Digital Academy as a leading industry-focused regional training center with training programs covering big data and data analytics, IoT, software, cybersecurity, immersive technologies, including AR and VR, telecommunication, Industry 4.0, and more to meet the skill needs of digital economy. In August 2020, I launched a new immersive technology that is AR and VR Center at SENTEC, a partnership between Eon Reality and SENTEC Digital Academy. The center will focus on industry-focused training research, innovation, and commercialization in virtual and augmented reality. Sectors such as healthcare, education, manufacturing, Industry 4.0, e-commerce, tourism, and others will be the greatest beneficiaries of these technologies. The Huawei Digital Center was launched in 2019, focusing on upskilling and reskilling in telecommunication hardware and software. These industry-focused facilities and research-driven industry relevant training will give Sarawak an opportunity to be a regional leader in digital training. To tap the opportunities offered by the global digital economy, we need to be on par with the developed countries in our digital journey. We need to push ahead a new digital and data science research areas like artificial intelligence, blockchain, 5G, Internet of Things or IoT, cloud computing and others, so that we will be not left behind. To leapfrog our research and development capabilities, the Sarawak government has established Center of Excellence for Digital Economy in partnership with all the 5 universities in Sarawak, leading global universities like National University of Singapore, and leading global technology companies that are IBM, Ion Reality, Honeywell, Huawei, General Electric or GE, Keysight, and others. The center was launched in August 2020. The model enables our researchers to collaborate with leading researchers around the world and access industry-grade R&D platforms and tools to solve complex problems and commercialize our research outcomes. The center's research ecosystem include university-based research laboratories focusing in big data and data analytic, 5G, immersive technologies, cybersecurity, software, IoT, etc. Industry-focused open lab to commercialize the research of outcome, and sector-focused testbed to showcase technology, solution, and use cases platform for research training, industry, and workforce transformation. The Open Lab is established as one of the key facilities to produce high-impact translational research in the digital economy. With access to industry-grade tools and technologies, researchers and startups are able to enhance their research outputs and accelerate commercialization of research outcome through startups and partner companies. In August 2020, I launched 5G Testbed, a partnership between MCMC, Sakofa, Maxis, SDEC, SMA, and Centex. This 5G testbed is the first in Sarawak and will be used to develop and showcase 5G use cases in smart city, manufacturing, healthcare, education, tourism, and entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, the economy might not provide sufficient opportunities or assist promising entrepreneurs in the digital space. This contribute to brain drain as the innovators may shift abroad to commercialize their invention. One such example is Grab, Uber of Asia, a very successful unicorn. To address such scenarios, over the last 2 years, the state government has established a number of innovation hubs and digital village comprising of numerous co-working spaces that act as community nodes for entrepreneurs and to acquire support such as market access, intellectual property protection, access to investors, talent upscaling, and more. We currently have 7 innovation hubs and 5 private sector partner hubs across Sarawak, including those in partnership with Facebook and Serba Dynamic. To date, more than 600 programs have been conducted through these hubs, impacting entrepreneurs and innovators from students to adults. In fact, a few of these startups are participating in government solutions for the people. The Q community app started as a CSR project by a startup now has been tied with the Huawei to increase its usability with facial recognition capabilities. The government always welcomes local industries and global players to join us in developing our digital economy and to participate in our journey to make Sarawak a developed state by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, economy-wide transformation is very complex and challenging, especially in managing new technologies and plotting our future digital outlook. To accelerate our 2030 economic agenda, we will seek partnership not only with the public sector, but also with the private sector, academia, and the community. The public-private sector and community partnership involving all stakeholders will provide a platform to bring about successful economic transformation. The government will concentrate on facilitating a regulatory environment that will allow a level playing field, make available seed funding, and invest in critical infrastructure, research, and talent development. The growth of economy largely depends on private sector investment and productivity. The government role is to facilitate, build infrastructure, and provide incentives and policy guidelines. To support the growth of private sector, in particular SMEs in Sarawak, Sarawak Digital Economic Corporation, better known as SDEC, in partnership with Mintrade, MDEC, MENIC, and Teraju, will cater toward digitalization of SMEs in Sarawak. Our packages will include provision of technologies, digital platform, training and support that will take their businesses to the next level. The program will be launched progressively in the coming months. I have established SDEC to help support and escalate the private sector, including SMEs, uptake in digital technology to spur their growth, productivity, and efficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, in developing nation, digital disruption offers both opportunities and challenges. The success mostly depends on the level of development and digital maturity of the state and its stakeholders. The key to influence successful outcomes is the adoption and execution of effective strategies and policies. Digital transformation is advancing at a rapid pace, creating new and exciting opportunities. However, while the impact of digitalization is widespread, the benefit it yields are distributed unevenly. Based on 2019 United Nations Digital Economy Report, geography of digital economy is clustered in 2 countries. That is United States of America, USA, and China. 90% of the platform market capitalization, 75% of the cloud computing market, etc., are dominated by USA and China. And their capability to build and secure the resulting value are estimated to heighten global inequalities. Although having access to technology and the infrastructure is critical, we cannot take full advantage of digital opportunities if we do not invest in human capital development, research, business and startup environment, business and government investment, agile legislative and policy framework, and a competitive private sector industry. Our regulatory framework is fundamental in boosting investment in digitalization, innovation, and competitiveness. This framework requires to be flexible and adaptable to technology advancement that may lead to innovative business models and competition while also safeguarding stakeholder interests. We need to understand our digital readiness and what intervention and investment could help us advance in our digital economy journey and address our 2030 economic growth agenda. This will need to be delivered through concerted planning and investment by both the public and private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sarawak vision is indeed ambitious, but with careful planning, commitment, hard work, I am confident Sarawak will be a thriving society driven by data and innovation where everyone enjoys economic prosperity, social inclusivity, and a sustainable environment by the year 2030. This is worth striving for because it is for the betterment of all Sarawakians. We want to make Sarawak the state that we all can be proud of. Finally, I must express my deepest appreciation to the chairperson and her organizing committee, that is the Sarawak Multimedia Authority, Sarawak Center of Performance Excellence Scope, strategic partners and sponsors, respective ministries and government agencies, as well as government-linked companies and private sectors who have worked very hard to make Idecs 2020 a reality despite the COVID-19 pandemic. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I have officially declared open Idecs 2020 conference and wish you all very fruitful discussion and networking during the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
The Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak and Patron of Idecs. Thank you very much. May we invite our guest of honour to please remain on stage. And may we also invite the organising chairperson to invite and accompany our distinguished guest at the main table to join our guest of honour on stage for us to proceed with the symbolic launching ceremony of Idecs 2020. Dengan segala hormatnya, dipersilakan. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor will do the honor by placing the state emblem crystal onto the pad after 5 seconds countdown to symbolically launch Idecs 2020. So let's all focus our attention to the main screen for the countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
data and innovation in accelerating social and economic prosperity for IDEX 2020. Thank you very much. It is now official, ladies and gentlemen. Another big round of applause, please, for IDEX 2020. And now may we invite the organizing chairperson to invite our guests of honor and distinguished guests to move to the second stage for us to proceed with our next highlight. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in conjunction with this year's IDEX, we have the signing and exchange ceremony of MOA and MOU, both to be done virtually and physically. And this ceremony is to be witnessed by the Right Honorable Chief Minister of Sarawak, accompanied by our distinguished guests on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, so now let's begin the virtual MOU exchange ceremony. The first virtual MOU exchange is between Sarawak Center of Performance Excellence Scope and Malaysia Board of Technologies. May we invite from Scope Yang Berbahagia Dr. Sabaria Putit, Deputy State Secretary and Chairman of Scope, and Yang Berbahagia Dr. Aslina Datuk Haji Helmi, CEO of Scope. And also, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see on the screen right now, we have our strategic partner who is now in Kuala Lumpur, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Academician, Dr. Technologist Ahmad Zaidi bin Laden, President of Malaysia Board of Technologies, and the Registrar of Technologies, Muhammad Nazrul bin Marzuki. Assalamualaikum. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the exchange ceremony is now begin. This MOU is to highlight the role of Malaysia Board of Technologies as the certification body for technologists in Malaysia, as well as to appoint Scope as the technical expert panel for program accreditation and training center for working professionals as technology specialists and technology certification in Sarawak. And to date, since 2017, Scope has trained 1,000 data analytics professionals and digital leadership programs in Sarawak. A big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. As we can see now on the screen, the exchange ceremony, or the virtual MOU exchange ceremony between Scope and Malaysia Board of Technologies. And this ceremony is witnessed by the Right Honorable Chief Minister of Sarawak and distinguished guests on stage. Thank you very much and congratulations to Scope and Malaysia Board of Technologies. Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri President of MBOT, for joining us. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on to our next virtual signing ceremony. The next virtual signing ceremony of MOU and MOA is between Sarawak Digital Economy Corporation (ASDAC) and its strategic partners who are now joining us at Huawei Experience Center in Kuala Lumpur. Hi, good morning. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, a brief info on this. As you can see on the stage right now, we have the Huawei Idea Hub, all-in-one smart screen which support 4K ultra high definition wireless screen projection, flexible video conference platform. It is also an interactive whiteboard with smooth natural writing experience and equipped with full office productivity application. So, let the magic begins for our first MOU between ASDAC and Huawei Technologies Malaysia Sdn Bhd. First, we'd like to invite Mr. Lim Chi Siong, VP Cloud and AI Business Group, Huawei Technologies, to sign the MOU. Dengan segala hormatnya, dipersilakan Mr. Lim. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. ASDAC and Huawei collaboration is on the development of ASDAC Huawei Hybrid Cloud Platform. Mr. Lim Chi Siong, ladies and gentlemen, signing for this MOU agreement between ASDAC and Huawei. Thank you very much. And now the MOA between ASDEC and Mainik Berhad would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Datuk Technologist Hasnul Fadli Hassan, Chief Executive Officer from Mainik Berhad, to sign the MOA. Dipersilakan. Ladies and gentlemen, ASDEC and Mainik will collaborate with ASDEC on SME digitalization, digital presence, and building the local digitalization services together. Thank you very much. And next, MOA between ASDEC and Experanti Solutions Malaysia Sdn Berhad. We'd now like to invite Mr. Vix Kanagasingam, Chief Executive Officer Experanti, to sign the MOA. Dengan segala hormatnya, silakan Mr. Vix. Ladies and gentlemen, ASDEC and Experanti will set up Sigfox IoT Testbed in Center of Excellence Open Lab at Centex, Santubong. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And now, to complete the virtual MOU and MOA signing between ASDEC and their partners, we'd like to invite Yang Berusaha Dr. Zaidi Razak, General Manager of Sarawak Multimedia Authority, to invite and accompany Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Dato' Amar Haji Muhammad Murshidi bin Abdul Ghani, Chairman of ASDEC, as the witness, and Mr. Sudarnoto bin Osman, CEO of ASDEC, to sign on the agreement. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan Mr. Sudarnoto bin Osman, CEO of ASDEC, to sign on the agreement, the Memorandum of Agreement between ASDEC and the strategic partners, Huawei, Mainik, and Experanti. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A big round of applause. Thank you very much to our signatories in Kuala Lumpur for joining us this morning. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the MOA and MOU exchange between ASDEC and Merdeka Waterfront Hotel, Sdn Berhad. Once again, we invite Mr. Sudarnoto Osman, CEO of ASDEC, and Dr. Steve Ng Tian Yu, the Executive Director of Merdeka Waterfront Hotel, Sdn Berhad, for the MOU exchange on stage. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan Yang Berbahagia CEO of ASDEC and Yang Berbahagia Datuk Steve Ng Tian Yu, the Executive Director of Merdeka Waterfront Hotel, Sdn Berhad, for the MOU exchange. ASDEC and Merdeka Waterfront Hotel will form a joint working group to explore the development of the integrated digital hotel management system. Congratulations. And now let's move on to our next MOA exchange between ASDEC and ARX Media, Sdn Berhad. Dipersilakan Mr. Lim Jim Hong, Director of ARX Media, for the MOA exchange with ASDEC. ASDEC and ARX Media partnership is on software development enhancements via facial recognition for community public check-in, replace of QR code. Amazing. Congratulations, ASDEC and its strategic partners. Another big round of applause for ASDEC, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on to our next MOU exchange between Sakofa, Sdn Berhad, and PP Telecommunication, Sdn Berhad. May we invite on stage Yang Berusaha Tuan Haji Muhammad Zaid Zaini, the Managing Director of Sakofa, and Yang Berbahagia Datuk Stanley Ling Tiong Leng, Deputy Chairman of PP Tel. Dengan segala hormatnya, dipersilakan. And this MOU exchange is witnessed by the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak. And this agreement is to explore collaboration on telecommunication infrastructure initiatives to benefit the state of Sarawak. Ladies and gentlemen, next is the exchange of MOA between Sakofa and Danawa Resources. May we invite on stage Encik Abdul Rahman Sepawi, the Managing Director of Danawa Resources, Sdn Berhad. Silakan. Silakan Sakofa and Danawa Resources for the exchange of the MOU. Ladies and gentlemen, this MOU is to explore collaboration on fixed wireless access to provide internet connectivity to rural communities within Sarawak. Congratulations to Sakofa and its strategic partners. Finally, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the next exchange of MOA between Sarawak State Human Resource and University Malaysia Sarawak Unimas. May we invite the Honorable Dr. Sabaria Putit, Deputy State Secretary, Performance Service Delivery Transformation, and the Honorable Yang Professor, Yang Berbahagia, Dr. Muhammad Kadim Suwaidi, Vice Chancellor of University Malaysia Sarawak Unimas. Dipersilakan. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan, ladies and gentlemen, this MOA is based on mutual agreement of both parties to collaborate by way of developing digital talents of the government through implementation of master information technology management. And this program aimed at producing and equipping the SAS officers with IT skills and knowledge, and believe that these high competent officers will be the main anchor for the government to achieve its digital economy vision and initiatives. Congratulations. Another big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the MOU and the MOA in conjunction with IDEX 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the photo session with our guest of honor on stage. Dipersilakan with our MOA and the MOU representatives on stage. Dipersilakan, our official photographers. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, as we embrace the new norm SOP of physical distancing of 1 meter apart at least, with mask on, and with our photographers on stage. It is now official. Another big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for our guests of honor and the rest of distinguished guests on stage for IDEX 2020. Silakan, the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak, along with our distinguished guests on stage, to return to their seats. Dengan segala hormat dipersilakan. It is now official International Digital Economy Conference Sarawak with the theme Data and Innovation in Accelerating Social and Economic Prosperity. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now proceed with our next highlight. And for now, let's all focus our attention to the screen for this digital economy montage. Dipersilakan.
Sarawak's economy by the year 2030, we have a direction where our economic development will be driven by technology and sustainability of environment.
Baik, terima kasih Hok. Suba, bamno kami, lain telefon na naday. Sepeng kemudian bisa SMA masih yang tiang ke kualia, bamno kami dito. Kami bisa pelan-pelan data boleh berkena bakal kemayari dia.
How data is the new currency.
pengebuun ne pusat IPT luak sintek omong menakjah gewangan name omong belajar dalam digital dengan teknikal. Dah ada sawak petu, nya lebih mudah bercuai. Sip melumi ke HAJI tadi, scannya pun cepat. Dalam masa yang sama, nya nolong kita menabung ke bank terus.
Sarawak Travel App is an interesting application that identifies, promotes and explains Sarawak tourism industry with ease.
Industri cari gali di Sarawak ada boleh berkembang. Sebab itu, patut forum makin boga ada pakar dan pendedahan dalam bidang itu untuk tajah potensi itu makin berkembang. Dengan adanya teknologi dan data pintar, memudahkan kami untuk bercucuk tanam secara berkesan dan mendapatkan hasil secara maksimum dalam masa jangka yang pendek.
Adanya apps COVID Presto, bila kita keluar ke situ, kita akan rasa lebih selamat lah sebab perjalanan kita dipantau. Lekat ya, mun ada kes berdekatan dengan tempat yang kita pergi ya, kita akan diberi saranan awal untuk mengolah saringan secepat mungkin.
沙拉越政府一向来都很积极为人民的发展而服务。为了方便将旧流程转化为电子版本，沙拉越政府集中了各种应用程式，例如 Mobile Assist SDB Care、Yayasan Sarawak Student、Sarawak Travel App、SDS PATINGGI、Sarawak Smart City 等等。 Adanya pusat teknologi digital kampung dan desa, kita dapat memberi peluang kepada anak-anak di kampung supaya lebih terdedah dan menyediakan teknologi terkini yang lebih berguna.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Idecs journey, building digital Sarawak, as well as to catalyze communities' social economy through digital inclusivity. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in conjunction with this year's Idecs, we are introducing Sarawak Digital Community Center, which is one of the main focus in Sarawak digital economy inclusivity initiatives to strengthening skills and talent capacity for sustainable community. Digital Community Center is an initiative by Sarawak Multimedia Authority and managed by Pustaka Negeri Sarawak and Ministry of Local Government Sarawak. For the first phase, a total of 20 DCCs out of 42 has been fully completed, and they are all here with us live via video conference for the Zoom-in session later with the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak. So let's do this. Let's have the honor. So let's fly to our first stop at DCC Sepinang Betong. Hi to our friend at DCC Sepinang Betong. The Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak is here with us, so please. Persilakan.
Good morning, AMAT BERHORMAT. I'm Fiona Rabia from PDCC Kampung Sepinang Betong, and my right side is YB Tuan Haji Razali Adun Beting Maro. Thank you, Yang Amat BERHORMAT, for the Digital Community Center at Sepinang, and I'm eager to learn using the 3D printers, and the makerspace tools here are useful for me to help me design products and express my creativity. And I have one example of product here by using the 3D printers. This is the sample of the product, pen holder, by using the 3D printers.
Continue.
And my friends are also using all these facilities here for different purposes such as study, arts, and commercial product design. Thank you, Yang Amat BERHORMAT. Bye-bye.
There you have it. Bye-bye katanya. Online. Daripada Sepinang Betong. That's the beauty of the technology, ladies and gentlemen. So now from DCC Sepinang Betong, we fly to DCC Maritam. Jauh nun di Limbang. Wong Limbang, apa khabar?
Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi Yang Amat Berhormat. Kami Nurul Batrisha Hani binti Sabri, pelajar Institut Pendidikan Guru Kampus Batu Lintang dan mewakili PDCC Meritam Limbang. Kami bersyukur kerana dapat berpeluang untuk menyertai pusat komuniti digital tersebut. Terima kasih banyak-banyak Yang Amat Berhormat kerana dengan pusat komuniti digital ini kami dapat menyertai dan mencari pelbagai maklumat untuk meneruskan pembelajaran secara atas talian. Strategi ekonomi digital Tok Juak dapat memudahkan pembelajaran kami secara atas talian. Terima kasih banyak-banyak Yang Amat Berhormat. Selain itu, ekonomi digital Tok bukan juga dapat mempengaruhi dan memberi kesan positif terhadap ekonomi, industri dan komuniti perniagaan, tapi juga dapat membantu pelajar seperti kami. Terima kasih banyak-banyak Yang Amat Berhormat.
Terima kasih.
Mungkin Yang Amat Berhormat Ketua Majlis Sarawak ada sikit dua soalan untuk kawan kita, pesanan khasnya untuk orang-orang di Limbang. Yang Amat Berhormat dipersilakan.
Ya, kita kerajaan akan meningkatkan lagi connectivity dan kita harap dengan adanya speed yang lebih laju kita dapat berhubung di antara satu sama lain dan bertukar-tukar maklumat. Saya nampak Limbang walaupun jauh ke utara sekarang ini dapat dihubungkan melalui Zoom ini untuk kita berinteraksi. Bahkan Datuk Amang Tengah pun senyum kerana Lembang dan Lawas boleh dihubungi. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih Yang Amat Berhormat Ketua Majlis Sarawak. Okey, mun tadi kita di Limbang, untuk kita nak rawon pergi Marudi. Dipersilakan. Sahabat-sahabat kita di DCC Meritam ataupun Long Lama Marudi. Yang berhormat Encik Dennis Ngau, dipersilakan.
Very good morning, yang berhormat Ketua Menteri. We are here at this point of time berada di Pekan Lama. Boleh dikatakan hampir-hampir di tengah hutan belantara Borneo. We are so grateful and very excited listening to berkenaan dengan the way forward in terms of digital economy dan sebagainya. And we in Langsung Bang Lama, right up here among the mountains and tall trees, are hoping to also benefit from Yang Berhormat initiative, especially in the tourism industry. In Baram, there are many interesting tourism spots which actually have been visited by special interest visitors. So we hope that with the penambahan baik sistem komunikasi, especially internet dan sebagainya, we are looking forward and to take advantage of what your good initiative for our state in times of cancer. So we look forward kawasan Langsung, Mulu, Marudi terus dibangunkan dengan infrastruktur ini. At the moment, there's a lot more places that need to be provided with this thing. And it is actually my humble hope that this IDEX 2020 will come up with a special system that can provide more coverage in terms of telephone connectivity to the rural community in Ulu Baram especially. Thank you so much for the opportunity, sir. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. As you know, this is the first time we have IDEX connected to the rural people. This is the first time 2020. Just now we had communication with our friends in Betong, and then Limbang, now is Marudi. I realized that we got problems in rural areas for connectivity. We have two approaches. One is by building our towers, which I have elaborated in my opening remark. While at the same time, for those remote areas, we are using another approach, that is by installing VSAT, a very small satellite aperture terminal that can boost up connectivity, and then we'll be able to, for people to communicate between each other, not only for visual but also for audio transaction. Thank you very much, Wabi Dennis.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Yang Berhormat Ketua Menteri Sarawak, and thank you very much to Yang Berhormat Encik Dennis Ngau over in Long Lama Marudi. KETUA kita nak singgah bagi Kapit kejap boleh. So our friends in DCC Kapit, Councillor Lating Minggang, Wali Kota of Kapit District Council, silakan.
Selamat pagi. Nama berita kita Yang Berhormat Ketua Menteri.
Mana? Kami situ mana? Datuk James pun ada situ.
Berita kami di Tok Manah bagi Yang Berhormat. On behalf of the community in Kapit, I would like to express our utmost gratitude to you, your good self Yang Berhormat, and to the state government for this digital community center project for us in Kapit Public Library. I believe that with all the digital facilities provided and program outlined will open up the local community to the modern world to great internet connectivity that shall empower us with new knowledge, skills and opportunities, thus may uplift the socio-economy of the community here in Kapit.
Thank you. We started our digital initiative over 2 years ago, and it's still what we can describe as infant process. But over a period of 10 years, by the 2020, that is our aspiration, that the whole of Sarawak will be connected. And that will enable people, as I said, communicate between each other. I was privileged to visit Kapit last 3 days using my motorbike. from Cebu to Kapit. And therefore, Kapit is no longer an island. Neither is Kapit isolated from the rest of Sarawak. We have our road connectivity. I had the opportunity of riding up to Nanga Mujong, which is at the end of Kapit before you reach Bali. And that shows that the physical connectivity and also the digital connectivity have to come together. And that will spur and boost up the economic development throughout Sarawak, wherever you are. In other words, the state government now is emphasizing on building our infrastructure, and it is our aspiration by 2030, Sarawak will be the best place in Malaysia for people to visit. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our friends over in Kapit, Councillor Lating Minggang. Mun tadi kita dah ngembak ataupun beli ikan tahai, kali tok tek kita dah ngembak buah rabe, walaupun belum musim sedahal, boleh sikit kita singgah nak beli nanas kejap. So now let's move to Sarike Resident Office. Can we have Puan Felicia Tanya, who are the resident of Sarike? Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Yang Amat Berhormat Chief Minister. I'm Felicia, resident of Sarike. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Yang Amat Berhormat and also our state government for all the initiatives that have been implemented in Sarike. Yeah? And then we are very grateful. We have one Sarike Innovation Center. We call it SIC here. The first innovation center that to connect the local communities and also to propel an entrepreneur ecosystem and also to revitalize Sarike into vibrant town with platform of economic and opportunities while guiding our local community into the age of digital economy. So since 2017, there's more than 52 workshops and also a lot of programs conducted in our SIC. Thank you very much for that. And as we all know, we have two agro-parks project under Project Rakyat, under your Project Rakyat, sir. It also will propel Sarike Division to become our food basket of Sarawak and also as a new impetus to the local agro-tourism industry. So, Yang Amat Berhormat Ketua Menteri, we would like also our people in rural area, especially at Pakan and also Julau district, to participate in digital economy, such as to produce products and also marketing their agriculture products. But our challenges here is connectivity coverage. As we know that mobile coverage is about 10% only. So we hope that our connectivity to this rural area will be upgraded, yeah, so that our people here at Julau or Pakan or some interior area can leverage IT and their economic activities and also their daily life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was in Pakan recently. As you know, we have had discussion for Pakan Julau area. I have discussed with the State Secretary that we want to install VSAT in that area in order to give coverage and connectivity between Pakan and the rest. And the second part is, of course, we have identified the Sarike Division as a food basket. That's why we are building road connectivity there. But the problem is you got so many rivers. It's not small river, big rivers. Yes. So the government has to spend a lot of money to build our bridges, banyak jambatan. And the second one is, which is very important, is our bridges are all toll-free. Tidak ada bayar toll. That is free for people. And though it is quite costly, but the government has decided that we must provide this opportunity to the people in rural area. And as far as the development for the whole of Serikei, as you know, we are going to build not only the connectivity along the coast, the Igan, we will build the Igan road from Igan right up to Cebu, and from Cebu they can even go up to Kapit. So that is the beauty of the central region, and within 10 years with our plan, we will transform the central region, and that is our ambition. And though, you know, the 8% growth is quite high and very ambitious, but I believe with the hard work of people throughout the state, we can achieve that 8% and Sarawak become a developed state by 2030.
Okay, thank you very much, Yang Amat Berhormat Ketua Menteri.
Thank you very much. From Serikei Resident Office, Puan Felicia Tan Yau Hua, the resident of Serikei. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We also acknowledge the presence of our Sarawak Civil Service statewide, as we have equipped 64 sites throughout Sarawak for public servants to attend IDEX 2020 virtually. And also we have the opportunity to interact with our residents. So let's have the final one. Our resident from Bintulu Resident Office, dipersilakan Encik Jack Aman Luat, resident of Bintulu. Hi, dipersilakan.
Good morning, the Right Honorable Chief Minister.
Yeah, good morning.
I would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to the state government under your brilliant leadership for all the initiatives that has been implemented during this trying pandemic COVID-19, such as digital surveillance system, using QR-coded wristband to monitor the persons under surveillance entering into airport and port. Launching of the Sarawak Pay in Sabah last year, Yang Amat Berhormat also helps introduce the rakyat to digital payment system. Apart from that, we hope that the internet connectivity in the rural areas of Tatau and Sabah need to be further enhanced. So is there any further initiatives to upgrade connectivity, especially in these rural areas of Bintulu Division, Yang Amat Berhormat?
Yeah. Actually, we are, as you know, we are planning to connect all the rural areas to the center. And all the government offices in division, district, and sub-district level will be connected. And those where the line is not that good, we install what I said just now, VSAT, VSAT, installed in all the district officers so that they can communicate with anybody, including, of course, the state secretary, to make sure that, especially Bintulu, it will be covered. Bintulu is fast growing industrial area, and then there is a lot of investment coming over that area, and we realize that, and we have to improve our connectivity. And there is a special program under Danawa in Bintulu, where in the Tatau, we are experimenting a system, Tatau and Sabah, a system where people will get fast speed connectivity in that particular area, especially for education. Okay?
Thank you so much, Yang Amat Berhormat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to our friends over at the Bintulu Resident Office. Kalau boleh, kita nak semua yang berada di DCC Community Center Sarawak untuk lambaian kasih kepada Yang Amat Berhormat Ketua Menteri Sarawak serta mereka yang berada di Dewan Utama pada hari ini untuk IDEX 2020. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the beauty of technology for IDEX 2020. Thank you very much. There you have it, the Zoom-in session with the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak. And also thank you very much to our friends over at Digital Community Centre, DCC statewide. So please, those of you at the DCC statewide, keep on tuning with us. We have more sharing after this, right here at Day 1 of IDEX 2020. The Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak, distinguished guests, delegates, participants, ladies and gentlemen. IDEX 2020 is indeed embracing the new digital norm. This, in light of Sarawak's new entry restrictions on travelers from outside Sarawak due to the pandemic situation, our moderator, Malaysia's leading female English news anchor, Anita Wu, will be joining us live from Kuala Lumpur. Meanwhile, joining us live all the way in Switzerland, our speaker, Emeritus Professor Stefan Gorali. So without further ado, let's begin our first keynote session on the changing global economic transformation in the post-COVID-19 environment. Anita, over to you in Kuala Lumpur.
Hello there, thank you very much, Farah. It's very pleased to meet you. A very good morning as well to the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak, DATUK PATINGGI ABANG ZOHARI Tun OPENG, and Honourable Cabinet Ministers of Sarawak, as well as the organising committee over there at IDEX. With us this morning, we kick off with our speaker sessions with Professor Stefan Gorali, our keynote speaker. He is a world authority on competitiveness and has pioneered research in this field for 25 years. He is Emeritus Professor at IMD, the Institute of Management Development, Lausanne, where he has founded the World Competitiveness Center. He is also Emeritus Professor at the University of Lausanne. Gorali is closely connected to the world of business. He is, amongst others, chairman of Le Temps, the leading French-language Swiss newspaper. He was formerly chairman of the board of the Sandoz Financial and Banking Holding and member of the board of the Banque Edouard Constant. Earlier in his career, Gorali was managing director of the World Economic Forum, WEF, for many years. For 12 years, he was also permanent senior advisor to the European management of Hewlett-Packard. He is a member of a number of institutes, such as China Enterprise Management Association, board of the Fondation Jean Monnet pour l'Europe, the Swiss Academy of Engineering Sciences, the Mexican Council for Competitiveness, and an advisory committee member of the Time Management Association. He is also a member of the International Olympic Committee Commission for Sustainability and Legacy. On top of that, he is the author of numerous publications on competitiveness and global business, including his best-selling book, Top Class Competitors: How Nations, Firms, and Individuals Succeed in the New World of Competitiveness. His latest book is entitled, Are You a Tiger, a Cat, or a Dinosaur? Today, he'll be sharing a very relevant competitiveness outlook for 2021 and beyond. Hello, Professor Gorali. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. The Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak, dear Cabinet Minister, the organising committee, dear delegates, it's a great pleasure and honour for me to be with you this morning, even if it is virtual, but this is a new world. And I will try to share some ideas regarding the world of tomorrow and the type of environment in which we are going to live. And let me show you this. And here we go. So the changing economic landscape is going to be something which is characterized by a world of interference. Success basically is the management of efficiency and the management of change. So far so good. But we are all the victims somewhere of the global economy on one hand, of the technology, of the mindset of people. Everything is changing and everything has an impact on us. This presentation is not about numbers, it's about ideas. John Kenneth Galbraith used to say the following: the only function of economic forecasting is to make astrology respectable. However, there is some good forecasting also taking place. So we are going to try to see what is going to happen to our world. First, we tend to forget that, of course, it's not in good shape, but at the end of last year, it was not in good shape either. Before the COVID-19, it was not a blue sky. We had geopolitical issues, protectionism, Brexit, energy cost, exchange rates problem, interest rates problem, energy transition, digital transformation, climate change. All this was impacting our world economy, and on the top of that came the pandemic. And some countries were already almost in recession. And then the context was changing, the governance context. We were with a new governance because we had more pressure for transparency, we had more pressure for increased activism, and of course, a lot of opinions on the economy. And we had to manage all that. And when the COVID-19 came, we had an addition of breakdowns. You know, the supply chain breakdown, of course, because China was closing and 40% of the electronic components were coming from China. consumption breakdown, shopping, tourism because of the lockdown, and of course a breakdown in infrastructure, especially in travel and shipping. What we had foreseen at the beginning of the year was that the lockdown in general would cost 2 to 3 months of GDP in 1 year, and this is about what we are seeing in the numbers. I mean, we know the numbers for Malaysia, and this is GDP growth during the past 12 months. If you are looking at your region, Asia, everybody is in very difficult situation with the exception of China, which is actually the only country growing today, plus 3.2% GDP growth. Europe, on average, minus 15%. Look at the United Kingdom, minus 21%. And of course, the largest economy in the world, the United States of America, minus 9.5%. And if we are looking at Latin America, the problems are just as big as everywhere else. So we need to find out from this situation, where do we go? Are you worried about what is going to happen? And this is a little cartoon. Relax, my broker says the economy will bounce back. Answer, yes, but I am your broker. So we are going to be in a situation where still, despite everything, we need to be positive. We may have an obsolete assessment of the situation, or at least a difficult assessment of the situation. Should we believe the statistics, GDP, productivity, inflation, working hours, they are changing a lot? Should we believe the stock market, which has predicted 9 out of the past 5 recessions, and which was growing at the beginning of the year when the economy was going down? Should we believe the economists like Franco Modigliani, the Nobel Prize, who said economists cannot make forecasts because when they are doing forecasts, they change the situation? So we are in a situation where it's a little bit difficult to know where we are going. If you take the GDP, was invented by Simon Kuznets in the 30s in the US, and it is all about added value. It doesn't tell you anything about assets. And in a nation like Sarawak, assets are fundamental to assess the competitiveness. If you are looking also at the GDP, it only speaks about financial transaction. If there is not a financial transaction, it is not recorded. For example, an improvement in a computer software, this has no impact on the GDP in theory. So this is very critical for the future. Inflation is the same. If you are looking at inflation on the radar screen, I mean, most countries today are near the zero line because, of course, of the economic recession. And if you are looking at those who are a little bit of inflation, China, Russia, and of course at the very top, Argentina and Turkey, they are really the minority today. But when you are trying to find out how do we calculate inflation, well, there is somebody in an office which is collecting data or going in the field and asking company what's going on, then the company are adapting to the price. But if you are looking at the new economy, which is at the center of your discussion and of course at the strategy of Sarawak, you will see that the online economy is changing the price continuously. Amazon will change the price 2 to 3 times a day, and they will even reduce the price during the weekend. So they are becoming price makers. A completely different situation that we had seen in the past, daily inflation maybe. And actually that's where the new technology can be useful. Space technology, Space Now, for example, is taking satellites and drones to see the activities of factories. A company like PriceStat will use online technology to look at the daily inflation by using your smartphones or how you are buying products online. So we can do a lot better in trying to find out the statistics on what is happening. Now, inflation is changing, but some of the things are not changing. For example, inflation is paying $30 for an haircut, which used to cost $15 when you had hair. Of course, there is no personal experience in this one. So the real issue is how do you react in time of crisis? Well, one of the things we have learned from the past recession is that basically you have to ensure that the money is flowing. And this is what the central banks are doing. They are printing money, and they are making sure that the money goes to the banks, to the companies, and to the SMEs. What is new today that the government are stepping in, and with the fiscal policy, they are trying to make sure that some money goes to the people themselves. This is the helicopter money we have seen in the United States of America, or trying to protect the jobs from disappearing. All this is happening today with one very big unknown is to know what will happen with private consumption, which is about 60 to 70% of the GDP in Europe and the US. In Malaysia, it's about 49%. And the real question is, will the consumer spend, or are they going to save because they want to save, or they are forced because they cannot spend, the shops are closed, or because they are afraid of the situation. And all this is going to be leading to what is perhaps an uncontrolled chain reaction. It means that if I give as an example tourism, which is one also of the pillar of Sarawak's strategy, it's about 10% of the world GDP. And with the lockdown, you have this chain reaction where you start by closing a restaurant and you finish by closing a plane factory somewhere. And in between, everybody else is suffering. Hotels, travels, events, real estate, financial services, the suppliers, the distributors, and the families, everybody is being impacted. And at the end, the governments are also impacted because the stimulus packages are costing a lot of money, and of course the tax losses are also there. At the end of the day, we have a lot of debt. And this is exactly what we have to look at for 2021. Is it going to be a lost year, a year of transition? Everybody is waiting for a vaccine, but if we have it, it has to be certified, manufactured, distributed, and applied, and this is going to take a lot of time. And the question for many companies is going to be, how long can you hold your breath, living on a cliff edge? And those who are going probably to be the most affected is going to be this part of the economy which is in contact with people, and this part of the economy physically contact with people, and of course the small and medium-sized enterprises, because the large ones have a kind of cushion in order to react to the situation. The next issue, in my opinion, in this context of chain reaction, is that we may be moving from a crisis in liquidity, which is something which is traditional in a recession, and which leads to debt, and basically we know how to do it in the short term. But if the recession is taking some time to be overcome, then we may have a crisis in solvability, which is going to lead to bankruptcy, simply because the customers, the business is disappearing. And I think this is probably one of the biggest danger for the months to come. For the government, after the crisis, we will have to manage what I call the tail of the comet, because it will be debt everywhere, and the government so far have spent about $4.2 trillion worldwide in fiscal stimulus, with a lot of budget deficit around and a lot of debt. The same is happening, of course, for the companies, which have been raising their corporate debt, for the people who have more personal debt. And most probably on the debt front, we are going to find a situation where low interest rates are going to remain, extended maturity on loan, grace period, and perhaps some cancellation of the debt. What is interesting, in my opinion, is that the government debt, which used to be about worldwide about $70 trillion, is going this year to explode by 25%, according to the OECD, and will reach 137% of the GDP in average. May I remind you that the average debt level, which most of the central banks accept as to be manageable, is 60%. We are in a situation, therefore, in addition, where most of this debt is in those large countries that you are seeing on the chart here, and actually the real problem is going to be the emerging markets, because those large countries are going to attract, to absorb all the money for the debt, and the emerging nations, which are by definition a bit more risky, will have more problem on international markets in order to be able to raise some money. So the world economy, we have to ask ourselves also, after this short-term period, what will be the new normal? Well, probably we are going to open a new book in the book of globalization. The past chapter was one global world, cost efficiency, just in time, high profits, and of course it was a world vulnerable to disruption. The new chapter is going to be a decoupled world. I will come back on that. Less economy of scale, duplication of technology. I will come back on that. More resilience, but the price will be more cost and less profit. If I would have to summarize these two worlds, the world of yesterday was a world of just in time. The world of tomorrow will be a world of just in case. And I think it means that the face of globalization is going to change. We are going to see a lot of decoupling of the economies. US and China saying, you know, we want to be more resilient. We want to have a stronger domestic base, less dependent from the other. And this will apply also with technology, what we call the decoupling of technology, where everybody will want to also develop its own base. China is going to invest $2 trillion in technology. The US is doing the same. Europe is doing the same. Less dependency from the others. And of course, it will mean for business more fragmented opportunity and more cost. And this situation is, of course, a theory. But maybe it cannot happen that easily because the world is still global and you cannot jump off the train. If I take, for example, Europe, you know, Europe today is still depending on 41% to Russia on the supply of fossil fuels. And when we are taking the entire strategy about new energies, 42% of the import on wind, photovoltaic, lithium-ion batteries are coming from China. So you are trading one dependency for another one. And if you are looking about those famous rare earths, the 17 rare earths, well, actually, Europe and the United States are importing practically everything. So dependency will still be there, perhaps in a different way. The real worry is about protectionism. We used to be in a world which was open, and now we are entering in a world of forbidden world where we see a lot of countries which have protectionist measures. I think that the big difference with the past is that we are moving from a rhetoric of job protection to one of national security. Most of the measures which have been taken, let's say, between the US and China were not driven by protecting jobs, but by protecting national security, which means something very political and something which is very difficult to negotiate rationally. And this is something which is quite dramatic because maybe Europe is going to step in and, you know, nations like Sarawak or Malaysia altogether will have some problems to find out what are the real markets and which ones are open. I think also that the next important issue is, of course, higher tariffs. But higher tariffs for company is manageable because all what you do is you pass it to the customer and you increase the price. Where we may have a big problem is if protectionism gets to market access, where you forbid market access to certain companies or to certain countries. And if this is happening, there is no alternative. The companies have really a lot of problems. And what we have seen recently is that in the United States of America, actually the companies are still operating in China. The deficit of the US to China in terms of trade is practically the same that at the beginning of the year. And even companies are suing now the government in order to get those tariffs down, saying it is killing the business. A lot of the business may go back. This is a lady telling her colleagues, we outsource it to India, and they outsource it to China, who outsource to Korea, who outsource to Mexico, and then she adds, and then they outsource it back to us. So a lot of the business may come back, but not all the business. And then the question is going to be, where will it stop? I mean, next year we are all discussing about COVID, but when you are looking at the list of the kind of catastrophe we have had in the past, it's a long list. And you may wonder, is it going to stop there? Or should we try to develop a new approach, which is called disaster management, just to be ready? Remember the just in case. And the traditional management really could be defined as being rational, systematic, efficient, planned use of resources. Disaster management can be defined as low probability and high impact, and frozen resources and non-productive costs. What I mean by that is that we have to put in place a lot of processes which we hope we will never use, a lot of stocks, masks, etc., which we hope we will never have to use. But this is a cost, and we will have to ensure that this cost has to be borne every year. And this is something which is going to stay with us for the future. In addition, and I think this is something which is quite important in the strategy of Sarawak, it's the emergence of new infrastructure. The traditional infrastructure are important. Travel, shipping, roads, energy, this is fine. But now we are seeing new infrastructure. We are seeing e-commerce with Amazon. We are seeing digital payment, for example, on financial. We are seeing e-banking, N26, which is the largest one in Europe. We are seeing e-medicine. We are seeing teleworking. And of course, e-learning. Now, what is interesting with all these new infrastructures is that most of them are in the hand of the private sector. And it means we will have to have a public-private partnership between the government and the private sector to find out who is going to manage what. Or could we leave those infrastructure entirely in the private sector? Let me remind you, infrastructure, of course, are very important. Number one, because you are working for your children. Number two, generally, it belongs to a country. Not all the time, but generally. It has a lot of impact on the rest of the economy, what we call the induced impact. And finally, you have a very diverse employment impact, which means that, you know, the engineer is working and the blue collars are working. There are very few sectors that can do that. And it means that, of course, there are a new project, but a lot of easy win are when you spend money on maintenance. Increasing maintenance of infrastructure gets a lot of very good impact directly for the economy and is very powerful. And then, of course, we have to ask ourselves if globally state capitalism is not back. You know, in terms of crisis, everybody went to the government, and asked about rescue packages. And the government did so. You know, about $1,000 billion already accepted. Another pact is being discussed now in the US, $750 billion in Europe. But of course, the empire is striking back. I mean, the governments are asking something in return: participation to the capital of companies, right of veto on transaction. Why wait? Access to strategic options. For example, Germany helping Lufthansa, but say provided you are buying now clean planes. Restriction on dividends, share buyback. We give you money, but you don't give dividends. And finally, of course, more regulation and more taxation. I think all this is coming to us very quickly and will change the picture. But the other very big impact is going to be obviously what is at the center of your discussion today, and it's going to be the technology. And technology is going beyond technology. Let me remind you, of course, that who owns the technological highway? Of course, it is Facebook, Alphabet, Amazon. You know those companies very well. Why are they successful? Number one, because they have the technology. Number two, they have the platform. Number three, they have the data. And number four, they have the markets. But what is interesting is that they are not staying on the highway. They are branching out. They are going elsewhere. What they are doing, like Amazon is a world leader in cloud computing, and Amazon is investing massively in retail food. If you are looking at Alphabet and Facebook, there are about 70% of advertising digital around the world. If you are looking at Tesla is becoming a world leader in battery production. And if you are looking at Apple, and remember, I'm broadcasting this morning from Switzerland. Well, Apple last year became the largest watch producer in the world. 26 million watches produced. The entire production of the Swiss watch industry is 24 million watches only. Now, of course, our watches are a bit more expensive, but that's a detail. But what it means is that in the past, we never expected that one day the biggest competitor of the Swiss watch industry would be Apple. And the same is happening also in electronic payment with Tencent and Financial, and perhaps one day with Libra of Facebook. And in this kind of situation, it means the following. This is a little cartoon where the little boy is saying, okay, how many monsters are under my bed tonight? And I think that every CEO has to ask himself the same question. You know, number one, who will be our competitors tomorrow? And number two, where will they come from? And I think this is important because most likely the competitors are going to come from industry sectors or countries that we have not expected. And that's why we have to broaden our horizon and to look far beyond what we used to do in the past. And this leads us to all the unsolved issues about technology, all the challenges that we will have to solve. The first one to be solved is going to be that we should never forget that at the end there is always a product. Digital economy is dematerialized, but at the end there is always a product. This is this little restaurant owner, pizza owner, who is saying the following on the phone: sorry, we cannot email your pizza as attachment. And this is true. And the second is energy. Technology is a very big consumer of energy. If you are looking at processing power, storage power, delivery power, it's consuming a high level of energy, and even self-driving cars are consuming 20% more energy than the traditional ones. And you may remember that a few months ago we had this big competition to be between a computer with artificial intelligence, Watson, and the world champion of Go. Well, AlphaGo, this computer was consuming 440 kilowatt an hour, and the world champion with his brain was consuming only 20 watts an hour. So we are very efficient. Now, some people are also making some saving of energy there, but that's another problem. But this has a very big impact because we should never forget that, you know, digital economy is energy consuming. 4% of the world emission of CO2, while aviation is only 2.4%. If you are looking at the CO2 emission, Netflix is consuming every year the same amount of CO2 than Belgium. If you are taking Google search per day, it's about 7 times the Paris-New York flight. If you are looking at all the waste of the digital economy, it's about the equivalent of 5,000 Eiffel Towers a year. So we should not forget all this impact on energy. The other one is going, obviously, to be employment. It will create employment. It will also perhaps change or transfer some employment. And at the unemployment office, maybe we will have this kind of situation, a robot staying next. But what we may have also in addition is a robot speaking to another robot, because the life expectancy of a robot is not very big either. And if you are looking at a company like Amazon, on average, it's about 800,000 employees and 200,000 robots already now. So it could be that for somebody working there, you know, your colleague could be a robot. Imagine the psychological issue when you are speaking to a robot or you're going to take a coffee break with a robot. So this is something which is pretty new and which we will have to solve. And an additional problem to be solved about robots, and this was read by, when you are looking where they are, automotive, electronics, etc., where they are, of course, much cheaper on average. This is the price in the United States of America. And the next issue, which was raised by Bill Gates, was should we tax them? Should we tax robots? Or should we accept this is part of technological innovation? And the big question, of course, is to know what is a robot. Is it a computer program or is it really a humanoid? Then the next issue, which is going to be pretty difficult to solve, is going to be size. The technological companies are pretty big, as you know. I have even a kind of average of those companies with a market capitalization. And the big discussion we are going to have today is actually, should we break them down? Should we allow them to have the platform and the services together, or should we do like it was done in the US with the banking, telecommunication industry? Should we really, or of course oil, should we split them up? If you look at, and I mentioned cloud computing, Amazon Web Services from Amazon, it was calculated by Morgan Stanley. If you would put the company on the market tomorrow, they would get about $438 billion in market capitalization. This was done in January. And actually, it would be a company 3 times the size of IBM, just to show you the size we are speaking about in terms of this. And then you wonder if we are not going into a kind of black hole economy, where at the center you have a lot of money, a lot of technology, a lot of innovation in smaller companies around, and then you have this system where everything is being sucked in the middle and is absorbing all the innovation. And then the big risk for many nations, especially emerging nations, is going to be, can small companies grow big, or are they going to be bought out by large companies immediately before they become competitors? It's a very big issue, because if you are looking how big is big today, this is for the US, the so-called Russell Index, 2,000 small cap companies in the US. The market capitalization in September was $1,900 billion, which is exactly the same as the market capitalization of Apple. And it shows how much those people have firing power. And then you have the same thing as a black hole in finance. Again, technology and money at the center, and then you have all the investors on the side, and everybody is going to go to the same company, and as a result, we are going to have over-capitalization of the same companies. And by expansion, if you are looking at the market capitalization, this was February, but the proportions are about the same. Look at the technology sector by the 20 largest companies in the world. It is so much bigger than banks, pharma, oil and gas, and the rest. So everything is going to the same direction with overcapitalization of some companies, and it will mean perhaps also undercapitalization of other companies. And of course, you can see that in the valuation, the animal spirit. If you are looking at GM and Ford, look at the turnover. It's about $140, $150 billion. If you look at Tesla, $24 billion last year, as well as the car production. Now, if you are looking at the market cap, General Motors is $40 billion, Ford $26 billion, Tesla is $395 billion. So somehow we are seeing what is happening now, overcapitalization of some, undercapitalization of others. And this leads us to the business models. The business models of the future are going to be driven by technology. In the past, we have seen these with agriculture, writing, printing, the steam engine, technology. What is different today is that in one lifetime, my lifetime, I have seen the personal computing, internet, mobile telecom, and artificial intelligence. Just to share a secret with you, I wrote my PhD thesis with a pen and on paper. Now, if I tell that to my students, they are going to say, wow, this professor is much older than he looks like. But this was another world. And we have to adapt to that, and we have to adapt the business models to it. So if you are looking at the Oxford Dictionary of English and you say, what is a sale? They will tell you it's the exchange of a commodity for money. But actually, none of them are true today. Because you could have very well a business model without transaction of money. Like the one we see on Facebook and Google with personal data, it's free. You can have the same thing with no ownership. Like what you are saying with the subscription model, the licensing model, what you see with Netflix, Spotify, etc., where actually you can buy the use of a product, but not the product itself. And this is completely new. This is completely new, and then you have a new trend. And the new trend, sometimes, wondering, you look at all those companies, they had something in common. They were a big success story, but they had in common that they were not making any profit. Actually, they were becoming non-profit companies. And this is something very strange, very unusual. It's very well illustrated by this little cartoon. We don't do anything. We are just attractive to high-risk investors. So we are in this situation where we have to ask ourselves, what do people want? What is going to be the future? And I think the first thing they will want is security. They will want security, certification with quality, and perhaps for companies and products, sanitary certification and certification of origin. They will want to have transparency. They want to be able to track where the products come from and its various components. They want ethics. They want to make sure that the code of conduct are ensured and the contract also. And they want sustainability. I think all this is going to be together with us for quite some time and will have an impact on the way we are going to do business. And we have to ask ourselves if the market is increasingly emotional. One day I received a very unusual advice by an American banker who told me the following. He said, hey, Prof, please don't confuse me with facts. I thought it was a joke, but it was not. He told me, no, actually, I'm more interested about what people think than about the reality. And you may remember there was this movie, yes, and a book made by Al Gore called An Inconvenient Truth. And you go at the movie, nobody goes there. Next to the door, you have another theater, a reassuring lie, and everybody is going there. And this is very much in line with what the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said one day. He said in a little book called The Art of Being Right, he said, actually few people know how to think, but everyone wants to have an opinion. And I think this is very correct. Everyone wants to have an opinion, and we have to respect it, but we have to understand also this is maybe part of something we could call the new tribe effect, which means that we are in a world where we have a prehistoric past, but we have also advanced technology, where people suddenly are back to the behaviors of the past. And it's a theory now in economics where people believe they are also belonging to new tribes, where belonging is more important than being rational, that cohesion is more important than truth, and that simple is more important than balance. You can see that maybe in the United States, America today with the election, but we see it also with modern technology. We belong to a tribe. You have those belonging to Apple and those belonging to Samsung. and Google, and nobody is agreeing to switch. So this is going to be a very big challenge for the future, because Alexis de Tocqueville said one day a false but clear idea will always have more power than a true but complex idea. And I think this is a problem we have now with the new technology, and it is that basically we have to ask ourselves if we can control all these opinions. How far can we regulate? I mean, the GDPR, General Data Protection, is being in place in many countries, not only in Europe, but also in Asia. The access of data, private and public, is being regulated. And the big question is, how far can you go? And this little boy is telling his teacher, actually, before I write my name on the board, I need to know how you are going to use it. So we are going to see what it means, because the companies have understood. You know, they went ahead and they made some rules. Now, this is the Apple Media Service Terms and Conditions. Ask yourself if anybody has read that. At the end of it, they say, please read the agreement carefully to confirm your understanding, and then click agree. Nobody has done that. And nobody has done that because I counted it, it's 6,806 words long. And by comparison, the United States Declaration of Independence is 1,337 words long, and it gives you a lot more hope. So we are in this situation where basically we can say that the challenge, very well expressed by Albert Einstein, is everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. It's easy to be complex, it's much more difficult to be simple. And of course, we see how countries are managing their value system to adapt what is happening now. One of the ways to look at the value system is to go in the street and ask people, what are the keywords which reflect your value system? This is Nanjing Road in Shanghai. And according to a Gallup opinion poll, the Chinese, they work out and get rich, 68% of them. Now, of course, we can think, you know, what about our children? And now I'm speaking about, you know, the country I know. I don't know in Sarawak if you have the same experience. But I know that if I would ask my children, they would say, China, it's work out and get rich. What about you, my son, my daughter? They will tell me, forget about the first part of the sentence, which is totally uninteresting, and pass immediately to what is important, get rich. And we have a generation of quick money. They want to get rich without working too much, and this is what we found a lot in the technology sector. But then you have to go to the other generation, and you said, you know, work hard, get rich. Your elder brother, elder sister doesn't want to work out, they just want to get rich. What about you? Well, they will tell you, actually, I don't want to get rich. And you will say, but how come you don't want to work hard? How come you don't want to get rich? How come you don't want to build your own flat or your own house? And they will tell you, but Mom, Dad, why do you want me to work hard all my life to build my own house while you have already done it? All I have to do is just to wait. So we have an entire generation, at least in Europe and the US, where we are struggling with this concept of they are not hungry enough. And it means we have a use quick. And this, I think, is worldwide. And generation X, Y, Z are not defined by age, they are defined by technology. When you are looking at the baby boomer, it was the TV, the X was the PC, the Y is a smartphone, and probably the Z will be the robot, the artificial intelligence. So what is this use quick all about? Number one, it's about meism. They are very self-centered, self-fulfillment, narcissism. Actually, this is a selfie generation. They spend their time taking pictures of themselves. When they travel, they don't take picture of the monument, they just take picture of themselves. They could save on the travel. And what we have seen is that a lot of them are escaping reality. What we see is that on average, they spend 10 hours and 39 minutes in front of the screen. And it means 90% of them are checking their smartphone within 15 minutes of waking up. If you are doing it, it means that you are young. And in addition, 65% prefer losing their car rather than losing their phone. Now, the reason is because the car belongs to the parents. But this is striking. And the second thing is that there is less affiliation, political or religious. Actually, they are very much concerned by the state of the world. They want to increase the state of the world, to improve, the state of the world. They would probably be very much in line with what Henry Ford said when he said a business that makes nothing but money actually is a poor business. And I think this is very correct. This is very correct because I see it with my students when they want to work somewhere, whether it is in government or in the private sector, making money is not enough. They want to contribute to the future. And then they have a strong sense of entitlement. They are demanding and intrusive. They do not understand what confidentiality means. They want to have access to all the information. They want to have access to transparency. And that's what Mark Twain said one day. He said, you know, actually never do wrong, especially when somebody is looking. And in today's world, everybody is looking. Through internet, through social media, it's a transparent world. And the fourth thing is the concept of ownership, sharing economy, where they believe free is cool. Free is cool. And this is a situation which is very challenging to explain. I try to my students that there is no free lunch. And they say, well, I said, don't you think that somebody has to work hard, has to make a living, etc., and you should pay? And they say, yes, Prof, we agree. Somebody should pay, but not us. And the best thing that I could find was a quote by Tim Cook to explain that. And Tim Cook said, if you think that a product is free, then he added, then you are the product. And I think they start to realize and to understand what is happening there. And it is also now connected to the revolution at work, where the positive impact is certainly work-life balance, saving working space in many companies, health and environment protection. But then, of course, it's going to raise a number of issues. Productivity. Number two, security of data, but also of people. What happens if they have an accident at home? And finally, psychological issue. I feel cut off from the office. Maybe they are taking decision in my back. And we are going to work that also on the hybrid workspace, what's happening elsewhere. This little guy saying, my boss says I can start working from home 2 days a week. And then he had on Saturday and Sunday. So we have to find some regulation on that. Corporate culture has been also evolving very quickly, and as Anita mentioned in his introduction, I wrote a book on that. And indeed, in the first part of our corporate culture, everybody is a tiger. Company achievement, work success. We are working more than 60 hours a week. We are company animals. We are very mobile, trying to find something to kill everywhere. Success-driven, fully dedicated. This is what we are doing. The problem is the following. After a certain time, for everybody, you get married, you get a house, you get a mortgage, and from a tiger, you transform yourself into a cat. You want social achievement, you are interested in work-life balance, you are working 40 to 60 hours a week, you want to have personal achievement, you are mobile with a home base, you agree to be moving during the week but not the weekend, and you are interested in work-life balance. And after a certain period of time, another transformation occurs. Suddenly, you transform yourself into a tiger. A dinosaur, sorry, to a dinosaur. And it means that you want to work less than 50 hours a week, you are interested in life quality, you are totally immobile, you tell everybody, forget about me, don't touch me, don't tell me anything, just let me out of the place at 5 o'clock, and you are interested in life balance. And this is always happening. This is normal in the life of a company, and I think that we have to manage that the best we can, because everybody has a value. Even the dinosaurs have a value because they are the memory of the company. They remember what happened before and why we did. So in conclusion, what does it mean for you? If I would recap, I would say the recipe, in a certain extent of success, is a very solid ground for the management of efficiency. Number two, the management of change. And number three, the management of complexity. The world is complex. And even simplifying the world is a competitive advantage. And on the top of that, we need to have a mindset of imagination. We need people who are saying, why not? And not people who are saying, why? Why not doing it is really the name of the game. You need people who have a lot of energy and who are going to say, why not doing it now? Not tomorrow, it's now. You want people who are committed and who are going to say, I do it with you. A lot of people are saying, you know, why me? I didn't do anything. But actually, they should be involved. And of course, there is the entire concept of legitimacy. Why us? Why are we the best to do the job, wherever we are? And I think there are two things to conclude, which I think are very important also for the future. Number one is that we have to be aware of the law of unintended consequences. And this is all Delhi, British colonial time, and they had a very big problem. There are too many cobra snakes in the street. So the city hall, they had a very brilliant idea. They said, okay, we tell everybody, if you find a cobra snake, you cut the head, and you bring us the head, and we will give you a reward for every head. The problem is that our Indian friends are very clever people. They start to raise cobra snakes in their kitchen, and then cut the head, and they went to City Hall, and they start to make a big business with it. At a certain extent, City Hall said, okay, I cannot cope with the situation anymore, so they stopped the reward, and what happened is that everybody put the snakes back in the street. And at the end, you had more snake in the street than at the beginning, and of course, you had less money in the government. And finally, and this will be my last one, I think one of the most complex issues will be that timing is going to be everything. Timing is going to be everything, and I want to give you an example that it is not if it is right or not, it is also when the policy is right or not. In August 1978, Laker Airways launches the first low-cost airline. August 1978, and it was a failure. He went into bankruptcy. In August 1993, was launched the Newton by Apple. It was the first personal digital agenda, smartphone, whatever you call it. Very interesting, but it was a flop. Nobody wanted that. Apple almost went into bankruptcy. The chairman, John Sculley, had to resign. It was a major catastrophe. So it is interesting because today, low-cost airlines are part of our daily life. Personal digital agenda, smartphone are part of our daily life. The first one, they have been on the market, they were a flop. From that, we can learn two things. Number one, never, ever launch a product in August. It's bad luck. But the second thing that we should learn was very well said by Montaigne, the French writer, who said the following: it is very wrong to be right before everyone else. So I think that in terms of the competitiveness of a nation, and I know that in Sarawak we are now rethinking about 2030 and what are the objectives and what are the enablers, and it's a remarkable undertaking. I think that all of us, we have to think also about the timing and the right timing. I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. And I think, Anita, if you can go back online, maybe we have some questions.
Hi there, Professor Gorelli. That was amazing. So actually, my mind is blown. It's on many fronts. There are many things that I didn't actually quite think about in the way that you did, and I only wish that you could hear me laughing and along, not at you, obviously, with you. Actually, our friends over in Idecs in Kuching would like to know how the weather is like where you are in Lausanne. Are you in Lausanne at the moment?
Yes, I'm near Lausanne, yes, and it's pouring down, it's cold, it's wet, it's lousy, it's depressing, and I would have hoped to be with you, whether in Kuching or in KL. But you see, the good thing when the weather is lousy is that we have nothing else to do than to work.
This is true, and save.
Save, yes, that's right, yes.
And also, more importantly, would like to highlight, what time is it over there?
It's very early in the morning. We are 6 o'clock, 10 past 6 in the morning.
Thank you so much. It was actually, thank you so much for making the effort and time to be with us at such an odd hour on your end. I do have a couple of questions to kick off the Q&A session.
Yes.
Malaysia being, would you think Malaysia is in quite an interesting position because of what you were saying about the decoupling in economies and the current geopolitics that's going on? Would you say that countries like Malaysia could benefit from this?
Yes, of course, because I think that a number of foreign companies are going to look at alternatives. Sometimes it's a bit risky because you find yourself a bit the hostage of the fight between the two large nations, the US, China, and they have a tendency today to ask everybody, take your side, you're on my side or you're on their side. And companies, they don't like that, they prefer to be in a country a bit more quote-unquote neutral, And so I think there is a good card to be played by Malaysia, by Sarawak, because I think the more we are going to go, the more companies want to be in places which are more neutral, if I can put it that way, where they are not going to be the hostages of the big countries fighting with each other. We see that in my country, Switzerland. It's very disturbing because we have good relationship with everybody. And now they want to tell us, you know, you have to take side on one side or the other one. And we don't want to do that. I think this is not the name of the game. It should be a peaceful world.
It's against the reputation.
Yes, exactly. It's against their reputation. So that's the point.
Another question, Prof, is in this COVID climate, you know, where for a lot of people the goal is just to survive. You know, what does competitiveness actually look like? You know, I mean, how relevant is the term competitiveness in that sense? I mean, I know there's always going to be a relevance, but you know, what does it look like in today's COVID climate?
I think that one of the basic concepts of competitiveness when we started the theory a few years ago was to say you cannot look at the economic just by looking at the GDP, just by looking at inflation. There is much more to it.
Yeah.
It's a much more holistic approach. You have to look at, for example, the value system. You have to look at education. You have to look at technology. You have to look at the use of infrastructure, which we call logistics. How do you interconnect infrastructure? So it's a very broad approach to economic issues. And I think what we are saying today is that companies which are surviving, for example, very well, are, for example, companies which have a strong value system, where people stick together and where they accept to make sacrifice together because they say, you know, we have to survive this situation together. Those companies which are fighting inside and where, sorry, and where people are saying, you know, actually, I don't care about the company or the management, they don't go anywhere. So I have the feeling that it's going to show how much the perceived aspect of competitiveness or what you cannot measure is going to be important for the future, not only of a company, but of a country. We see that the countries which are faring well in this COVID crisis is where the people are united, where they say, okay, you know, it's a difficult situation, let's stick together, let's respect the rules, and we will try to go through that. The countries which have a problem is where you have an antagonization of the people inside, where they are fighting, where they don't agree on the rules, and where they are questioning everything the government is doing. This is very bad.
Would you consider?
I have not mentioned any country, notwithstanding that.
Sorry, would you repeat that, Prof?
I said I did not mention any country. I didn't quote anybody.
All right then. Thank you very much. That's very insightful indeed. It's more of the non-tangible values that you're saying that will really make the difference in the end. And you know, with your speech about unity, I mean, would you consider politics, Professor?
I have been in it. I was a member of our Constitutional Assembly, which was very nice. You know, writing a constitution is a lot of fun. In addition, it's a very good job because, you know, you won't be re-elected because the next one is in 150 years. So I enjoy it thoroughly.
Thank you so much, Professor. I'm gonna toss over back to Farah on ground in Kuching. She's got some questions as well from the floor and from those present over there. Over to you, Farah.
Thank you very much to our moderator, Anita, and a big thanks to our speaker live from Lausanne, Switzerland, ladies and gentlemen. And now, let's proceed. We open up the floor to any questions, please. Dipersilakan. Any of our delegates to please ask questions. Yes? Your name, sir, please.
Okay, my name is Mahara bin Saleh from State Human Resource Unit, Chief Minister Department, Sarawak. If I can ask this question to you, sir, what opportunities do we have to bridge the social and digital disparity so that the community can make the most of the benefit that digital economy presents? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. I think that the Right Honorable Chief Minister has mentioned the importance of matching, for example, technology and education. I think that we can do a lot to bridge the gap between the various parts of society by using technology in order to spread the knowledge everywhere in the country and in different parts of society. I think the objective is to make sure that people are what we call employable. And I think that technology gives a very fast track to employability at every level of a country and at every level of a society. So my feeling is that we can accelerate growth, and in addition, we can accelerate the cohesion of society by using technology to make sure that it is everywhere in the country. It can be also, and I think it is important, technology should not be only reserved to advanced sectors like telecommunication, but I think it can play a very good role, for example, to improve the productivity of the agricultural system, to help people to increase the yield of their crops, to help them to know what are the pricing on the market, etc. So I think that a good use of technology may probably answer your question.
Thank you very much. And perhaps we'll take another question from the floor, please. There she is. Silakan.
Hello, Prof. I'm Lily from the Ministry of Utilities. There's one question. Yeah. What is holding the business back in terms of benefiting from the digitalization? Thank you.
For benefiting from the what? From?
Benefiting from the digitalization. Digitalization.
Digitalization. Okay. I think the biggest problem for any business, digitalization, and maybe the rest, is the complexity. Level of complexity of everything. I'm not speaking about Sarawak. You know, I'm Swiss, I'm objective, I'm neutral, I have no ideas. But in general, if you're asking any business for digitalization or for the rest, what they would like to have is a simplification of business procedures, the simplification of having access to patents, the simplification for opening a new plant, for opening a new office, etc. And I think we are in a world where we try sometimes to be very sophisticated, which is very good, but sometimes sophistication means complexification. It means an environment where people are spending too much time managing the environment and not what they want to do. So my advice would be to try to simplify things as much as possible. This is, you may remember, really, what I mentioned in my presentation about Albert Einstein. And I think it should not be too simple, but as simple as possible. And I think that a lot of countries are working on that. Some countries have committee or commission on the simplification of procedures, not on having more laws and more rules, but having less, trying to make sure that we stop the overlapping of various regulations, because this is happening with time. And I think there is a lot of work and a lot of quick wins and benefits in order to simplify things. So my answer would be that. And it's not an issue for one or the other country, it's an issue for every country. I think we have a tendency to over-complexify the environment, and that's not what business wants. Thank you for your question.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. That was amazing. So another question from the floor, please. One last question before we invite our guest of honor to say hi to Emeritus Professor Stefan Gorali. Any from the delegates here, please? One question. Okay. Silakan.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, one question from me, Professor Gorali. My name is Michael Roni Langgong from Chief Minister Office of Sarawak. Right. Technology is not deterministic. It can create both opportunities and challenges now. What are the policies area that will need particular attention so as to reverse the trend towards widening inequalities that we have at the moment? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I think it's back to what I said a little bit earlier. I have the feeling that we should start by having technology being taught in school as early as possible. So the education system has to incorporate that very quickly. And I think that I cannot judge for Sarawak, but I know in my country, we are sometimes very slow at making sure that our children master completely technology. And the problem there, to be honest, are not the children. The problem are the teacher. The teacher which have not been trained with the new technology, and sometimes in the room, the children are more aware and more savvy about using technology than the teacher. So first we have to improve the qualification of the teacher. And we have perhaps to change a little bit their own curriculum in order to make sure that they teach things the right way. And then I think that a lot of vocational training, a lot of helping of different parts of society for those who are already in the job area, or those who have already a job, should be provided with the opportunity and the possibility to complete their training, to complete their qualification with the latest technological issues. It needs not to be complex, it's relatively simple. For example, how to use Zoom. That could change the life of, I mean, Zoom could be somebody else, but it can change the life of many people. I think that maybe we can reach a lot of people with e-medicine, trying to make sure that, you know, doctors cannot be available all around the territory. But if we have stations where people can go and could connect to a doctor through Skype or else, it could be very helpful. So I think it's both the education at the very beginning and helping those who are already, let's say, the ground up, who are already in the jobs, to be aware that things are changing very quickly. And I think everybody should continue to train itself and to educate itself, whatever his age. Thank you, Michael.
Great. So before we proceed with one question, or perhaps a view with our guest of honor, the Right Honorable Chief Minister of Sarawak, we have this one question, Prof, from our viewer here, Jamal. All right. What is your opinion on Industrial 4.0 from Industry 3.0 and owning cloud infrastructure for data centralization and security, especially for Sarawak, Prof?
Well, I think that this is going to be one of the key issues, which is going to be that the new economy, the so-called, you know, 4.0, whatever it is going to be very data angry and very energy angry. And in data, the most important thing is going to make sure that we secure the data. I mean, one of the wealth of a country, one of the wealth of a nation, yours, is going to be the knowledge, and is going to be the access to this knowledge. And this is going to be data centers. So I think that we need legislation which is going to protect that for the government, but protect that also for the people. We don't want to have their information, you know, going around. And this is going, just to connect that to the earlier question, it's going to be very important, for example, if we have a lot of digitalization of medicine, you know, giving people access to some medical expertise. We don't want to have this information starting to go around. So my feeling is that the security of data is going to be one of the key aspects for this new industry. We have to realize that, as I mentioned in my presentation, it's going to be also not only hungry in data, but hungry in energy. Now, you are lucky because in Sarawak, you have some energy production, and but it's going to be need to have, how do I say, upstream, to have the supply sources to really feed this digitalization. This is going to be important. Thank you very much, Michael, for your question.
Great one, Prof. So now let's proceed with this special session. Prof. Stefan Gorali with our guest of honor, the Right Honorable Chief Minister of Sarawak. Silakan.
Professor, thank you very much for your insight into what is going on throughout the world. And we in Sarawak believe that competitiveness is going to be the order of the day, and it depends on what platform you are on. But I share with you that technology is important. Well, at the same time, there must be a balance between technology, environment, and sustainability. I think for Sarawak, we have a population of 2.8 million. But I see one country in Europe, I mean, that has been very successful, Estonia. Estonia has already transformed because of this technology. And of course for Sarawak, we are more or less going towards that direction. And the future very much depends on that competitiveness and how you can master the technology. And therefore, I would like to express my appreciation to you for your insight, and that will definitely be a very important input for us to formulate our policies for the future so that Sarawak can be competitive enough and have the latest technology in this transformation program. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Chief Honorable Minister. I'm very honored to have been invited to this conference, and my only regret was not to have been able to be present live. I hope it will be the case for another occasion. I have been aware of the various studies which have been conducted by your government on the future policy, on the strategy, digitalization, but also, which I think is important, inclusiveness, sustainability of the country. So I would like to wish you the very best success. And I'm sure that you can very well be as good as Estonia, if it is not better one day. This is my wishes. Thank you very much indeed for your hospitality.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Sarawak. We wish you here, Prof, with us. Once again, thank you very much to you. There you have the first keynote session with Emeritus Professor Stefan Gorali joining us live from Lausanne, Switzerland. And for now, let's move on to our next keynote session. Back to you, Anita, in Kuala Lumpur.
Thank you very much once again, Professor Gorali. That was indeed a pleasure and an honor to pick your brains and have an insight into your insights.
Thank you very much, Anita. Bye-bye.
Bye. Once again, thank you very much for the wonderful questions also coming in from Idecs in Kuching. It's a pleasure to, my only regret as well is not being able to be there in person. Let's hope that we'll be able to keep the numbers down so borders can be open and we can be more mobile again. Moving swiftly along, let's change the mood up a little bit. We will be having a very special speaker. She has struggled a lot in her life to get away from the label of Mark Zuckerberg's sister. Indeed, Randy Zuckerberg is an entrepreneur, investor, best-selling author, and Emmy-nominated tech media personality. She's the founder and CEO of Zuckerberg Media, with the mission of supporting current and future entrepreneurs through investment, mentorship, and media, especially starting off with her passion to help women in the industry. Prior to founding her own company, Randy was an early employee at Facebook, where she's best known for creating Facebook Live, now used by more than 1 billion people around the world. A Harvard graduate, Randy hosts a weekly business talk radio show called Complicated on Sirius XM, and is also the author of 4 books, 2 best-selling business books, namely Complicated and Pick 3, as well as 2 children's books, since she became a mom, which is also currently an award-winning preschool television series on Universal Kids and Hulu, as well as the series called Missy President. Randy travels the world, speaks about technology, entrepreneurship, her time in Silicon Valley, and shockingly, how to unplug. When she's not Facebooking or actual written word booking, she can be found at the theater as a 2-time Tony Award-winning Broadway producer of Hadestown and Oklahoma. Oklahoma is one of my favorites. Very, very pleased to have you with us. Randy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Anita. Good morning to everyone in Sarawak. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Randy Zuckerberg. I'm so thrilled to be here to talk about how we can thrive in this new normal. And of course, I'm very excited and happy to be part of IDEX 2020, even from across the world. Now, I want to start with a huge thank you to several people and organizations, the Right Honorable Chief Minister of Sarawak, the Deputy State Secretary, Sarawak Multimedia Authority, and of course, the incredible organizing committee from SCOPE. Thank you to everyone who made this event possible. Now, I also want to say a huge hello to everyone who's in the hall today. How exciting to actually be there in person. And another equally big hello to everyone who's dialing in from all across the region. While I so wish that I could be there in person with all of you, I think it's truly wonderful how technology allows us to all be together at this event from across the world. Now, just a little taste of being there with you. I know that the bird, the official bird, is the hornbill, so I've tried to wear the closest earrings and accessories that I could to something with a hornbill on it, so I could feel like I'm there with you representing the culture and the spirit. Now, I wanted to tell you a few things about me because I'm sure that you're all familiar with someone else with the last name Zuckerberg, and you're probably sitting there having a few feelings right now. Maybe you're disappointed. You wish that it was the other Zuckerberg that was talking to you instead of me. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself so that maybe by the time we're done today, you can forget that that other Zuckerberg even existed at all. Here are a few things about me. I graduated from Harvard University. I know, that's so obnoxious. Why would I start off my speech bragging about going to Harvard? Well, that other Zuckerberg I just mentioned did not graduate from Harvard. So that is pretty much the only score one that I have in life. So of course I have to lead with it. I wanted to show you a picture of my family, mostly because there's a good chance that someone from this photograph will walk across the back of my keynote while I'm talking to you today. So now at least you can recognize the people that might be crossing through the screen. And I put the Zoom logo on here because the other day I was thinking about all of our careers right now, and I felt like maybe I should change my professional title on my business cards to professional video conferencer. I mean, it's really surprising how many things in life can be done over video conference, from doctor's appointments to shows to business meetings. And I think we've really all learned a lot about remote work. That's something that I'm going to talk about a lot later. And bonus is that I'm wearing pajamas right now. Just kidding, I'm not. I dressed up for everyone, but maybe some of you who are watching are wearing pajamas, so that's a definite benefit to virtual events. I want to take you back to the early days of my career and of the start of Facebook, because I know that's something that's very interesting and exciting to everyone and has a lot of lessons and similarities to the time that we're in right now, actually. When I went to Harvard, something that you definitely don't know about me is that I loved music. I actually wanted to be an actress and a singer. And I had done a lot of opera and music my whole childhood. It was my dream, my whole life, to sing on Broadway in New York City. But my first week at Harvard, I got flat out rejected from the music major. That's it. So I had to do my first entrepreneurial pivot at age 18 years old and find something else to study and explore for my career. But luckily, around that time, I found advertising, marketing. I loved it so much. I took an introduction to psychology and business course. I fell in love. And so after I graduated, I moved to New York City and worked for a huge marketing agency called Ogilvy and Mather. And something interesting happened to me my first day on the job. There were about 40 of us who all started at the agency at the same time. Well, 39 of my colleagues got staffed on glamorous campaigns with celebrities, big world events, you know, the kind of things that you see on TV and in movies that marketing agencies work on. Not me. I got staffed on this brand new little startup team inside the agency called Digital Marketing, and I was angry. I did not want to be on this dead-end little team. I didn't even know what's digital marketing anyway. It sounded like a dead-end job. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be with all of the celebrities. But it turned out to be a huge blessing in disguise, because 2 years later, all of my other friends and colleagues who started at the same time were still in entry-level positions getting coffee, and I was running one of the fastest growing teams inside the company, and suddenly everyone wanted expertise in digital marketing. One of those people who wanted expertise in digital marketing was my brother. He started calling, texting, emailing me saying, "Hey Randy, I started this thing called thefacebook.com and I could really use some advice on digital marketing." Let me translate that for anyone who's listening who has not been part of a family business before. When he said, "I could really use someone who knows digital marketing," what he meant was, I need someone who will work for free. Those of you who've been involved in a family business know what I'm talking about. So I figured, you know what? I'll help my brother out for a few days. I'll go out to California, see what he's working on, and then I'll go right back to my life in New York City, because I loved it in New York City. I got on a plane out to California, just, you know, help my brother out for a few days. And I had never been to California before. So in my mind, I thought I was going to step off the plane into this world of palm trees and glamour and celebrity. But no, what I found was the least glamorous place I'd ever been to. It was so messy. This house, these guys were coding around the clock. I think they consumed only Red Bull for 4 straight days. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? What is going on here? But I have to admit that there was something so exciting about the passion that these guys had for what they were building. Even in the middle of the night in this messy house, you could tell that these guys truly believed that they might change the world. And it was so exciting. I'd never felt anything like that before in a corporate setting. So I told you that I had gone out there thinking I would be in California for 2 days to help my brother. Well, 10 years later, I was still in California, and it was only just a few years ago that I actually made it back to New York City. Now, you might think, you know, wow, we always had it so easy at Facebook. It was always this big company with tons of money, but every company starts somewhere. When I started at Facebook, we were only about 12 people in this tiny little office above a Chinese restaurant in Palo Alto, California. Now, when I left the company 10 years later, we had tens of thousands of employees in offices around the world, but I still remember that first year. I was running marketing, and my entire marketing budget for a year was 1 box of t-shirts. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling like, I don't have money, I don't have resources, how can I market my business? Just picture me sitting there in that little office the first year of Facebook with 1 box of t-shirts, and that's all I had to market our company for a year. One thing that we did that was very effective, though, was we did these things called hackathons. And in these hackathons, we would invite people from inside the company and different companies in Silicon Valley to all come together and brainstorm. That's a great thing to do when you are short of resources, because you can start to get ideas from smart people all over the industry and all over the region. We would have these hackathons every few months, and usually they were all-night hackathons. So they would start right after work ended, and you would work on a project all night long. If you were still standing the next morning, you got up and presented it to everyone. The only rule was that you were not allowed to work on anything that you did during the day in your job. So you couldn't just sit at the hackathon and answer emails or make presentations for clients. No, this was 12 hours to work on something totally wild and random that you would never give yourself permission to work on in your normal life. Now, maybe you're sitting there thinking, everyone in Silicon Valley are geniuses. These ideas must have been so great, but most of the ideas were some of the silliest, dumbest things that you've ever seen. One in particular that really stands out to me is this one engineer hooked up a trampoline to people's phones. So you would jump on the trampoline, and that would become your lock and unlock screen on your phone, and you had to recreate an identical jump to get back into your phone. Do you have any idea how long it takes to recreate an identical jump on a trampoline? People would jump for hours and still be locked out of their phone. So I think that was probably the worst invention that I ever saw. But something incredible happens when people are doing crazy things like that. Because when the guy next to you is hooking up a trampoline to an iPhone, there is nothing you could do to top it. So you might as well just bring your wildest, craziest ideas to the table. It's amazing, I think, in our real lives, we are so afraid of bringing big ideas to the table. We are afraid that other people will tell us that we're silly, that we'll get rejected. We're very afraid of failure, especially in many of our careers. And so we don't bring our big, bold ideas to the table. These hackathons became one of the only places where many of us felt free to bring big thoughts and try them out. And what ends up happening when you free people to do that is that people come up with good ideas sometimes, good ideas that they never would have come up with or raised in a general day-to-day life. Now, I have a few hackathon projects I'm pretty proud of. I wanted to share 2 of them with you today. The first is that I started an employee rock band. Inside of Facebook, we played all 80s rock music. I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there like, wait a minute, we've been listening to Randy's keynote and she's gonna talk about an 80s rock band. I am not impressed by that. You should not be impressed by that. That's the correct response. We were a terrible band and you shouldn't be impressed. But maybe you'll be a little more excited about my next hackathon project. You see, around the time the iPhone came out, I started to get really interested in the fact that every single one of us was now walking around the world as our own media company. Every single one of you listening, you are your own movie studio. You are your own radio network. You are your own television show. That was really exciting to me. And I thought, how could Facebook play a role in that? So at one of these hackathons, I took over this tiny little broom closet and I started just interviewing people at the hackathon and going live. I called it Facebook Live with Randy Zuckerberg. I thought this is gonna be huge. 2 people watched, my mom and dad. That's it. I got so bummed out that no one was watching except my parents that I turned off Facebook Live and I went home for the night. I did not even stay up till the end of the hackathon to present my idea. And I thought, Facebook Live is dead. Except maybe a few of you who are listening to this have used Facebook Live before. You know it's not dead. So here's what happened next. A few weeks later, I got a call out of the blue from pop star Katy Perry and her team saying, Randy, we saw that Facebook is launching a new kind of television show and we want Katy Perry to go on it to announce her world tour. And I thought, okay, here's where I should apologize and say that it's not a real show, it's just a silly hackathon project. But then I thought to myself a minute, wait a minute. Randy, what would your male colleagues do? Your male colleagues would want to meet Katy Perry. They would make it happen. They would find a way. So instead of apologizing, what I said was, yes, Facebook Live is a very reputable television show, and that is definitely where you should launch Katy Perry's world tour. So in January of 2011, Katy Perry came to Facebook for the first ever Facebook Live broadcast. It was a huge hit. We had millions of people who tuned in from across the world. Her tour sold out in minutes. We couldn't just go live from our phones like you can do today. Streaming bandwidth wasn't that way back in 2011. So we had giant satellite trucks that were parked outside the Facebook office in order to allow us to stream to that number of people. But it was a huge success, and from then on, so many celebrities, politicians, world leaders all wanted to come through the Facebook office and do their own Facebook Live broadcast. Now, Facebook Live was kind of my little side hustle on the side of running marketing at Facebook. So I had this full-time job running marketing, and then I also was developing Facebook Live, hosting all the interviews, doing everything. That's startup life. You do everything. Sometimes I would even throw a bone to a small little startup, just to, give them a little publicity through Facebook Live. I had these guys on my show and I said to them, hey, welcome to Facebook Live with Randy Zuckerberg. What's the name of your startup? Twitter. Good luck with that. Well, they did pretty well, so good job, guys. But my favorite memory of my time working on Facebook Live is about 4 months into past that hackathon, the broom closet, I got a call that the President of the United States, President Obama at the time, wanted to use Facebook Live to do a town hall to all of America. Like I said, this was only 4 months after I first had the idea at the hackathon, and 4 months later, the President was using Facebook Live on a regular basis. I actually got nominated for a major television award for that broadcast, but then I lost. So I guess I have to say it's an honor to be nominated. But it got even better than that, because just a few years ago, Facebook Live launched to all of you and to everyone around the world. Facebook Live is now available to more than 2 billion people around the world. Now, the reason I say that is because when I got on that plane out to Silicon Valley to help my brother, I didn't think of myself as a creator, as an inventor, as an entrepreneur. I never would have used those words to describe myself. I just thought, I'm a marketer. I'm the person behind the scenes helping brilliant people get their ideas out there. But there's something special about putting yourself in a situation where you're a little bit uncomfortable, where you can get out of your fear of failure and put big ideas out there. And what I learned from that experience is that every single one of us that's tuning in today has an idea in our mind that 2 billion people could be using. We just have to sometimes get out of our own way and make sure that we can put our big ideas out there. So here I was, I had just created Facebook Live, I was meeting these celebrities, traveling the world, I had the President of the United States on speed dial, so what did I do? I quit my job. I know, now you're sitting there thinking for sure you're listening to a crazy person on the other end of this keynote, but hear me out for a second. Why would I do that? Why would I walk away from one of the greatest companies and the greatest opportunities? The answer is, it's complicated. See, I loved what I was doing at Facebook and in Silicon Valley, but I had a lot of complicated feelings about the tech industry. One of the things that I felt most complicated about was the fact that for 10 years, I was the only woman in every single room that I was in. And I thought, why is this the case? The tech industry, it's so exciting, it's cutting edge, it's changing the world. Why are there no women and no diversity in this industry? That was something that really hung heavy on my heart that I wanted to do something about. I knew I wanted to help women to get further in business, and I knew that I probably couldn't do it from inside one company. So sadly, even though I loved my time at Facebook, I left to start my own business, Zuckerberg Media, with the hope of getting more women into technology and business. But I had to do some research because I didn't know exactly where and why we lose women around the world in these fields. So I started to do all this research, and I have to tell you, my research shocked me. What I learned is that the first gap where we lose women in these careers is at 8 years old. 8- and 9-year-old girls start to say things like, oh, I'm not good at math, or that's for boys. And so I actually ended up dividing my company into 2 parts. Half of our company works on children's media and entertainment in order to develop television shows, books, products for girls to get them excited about technology and coding from a young age. And the other half of my company does career coaching and advice for women who are starting companies, whether that's through mentorship, investing, because for me it's very important to address both of those gaps. We're really losing women in these industries. But there was a personal thing that was happening in my life that also contributed to my decision to step away from Facebook, and that was that I became a mom. And I know that that's a complicated moment in a lot of career women's lives, where you have to start thinking about the balance between focusing on your career and your children. Working at a startup like Facebook, I was working around the clock, and I was working so much. I was working 24 hours a day. It's not sustainable to have children and be working in that kind of climate. And I'm sure many of you who are working at tech companies or your own businesses can relate to that. And it's hard because that also contributes to why we lose so many women at these fast-paced startups. Now, I had two sons who are absolutely the loves of my life, but something was missing. Here I was focusing on women and girls, and then coming home to my boys. And I have to say, I'm so happy that 1 year ago I had a baby girl. So it was really a special moment for me doing all this work with women and children to actually have a little girl of my own. But this pandemic has brought a lot of new challenges for parents all over the world. There was a moment in the spring where I think hundreds of millions of children were all out of school because schools were closed down around the world. Here's a picture of me wearing a t-shirt that says, "I'm not talking to myself, I'm having a parent-teacher conference." And I always get a good laugh when I look at this picture, because if you asked me a year ago to predict what the hardest things would be about being in a global pandemic, I probably would not have said teaching homeschool math to my children would be the most challenging thing about a global pandemic. But here we are, and many of us have had to take on, multiple jobs inside the home that we're not paid for. In some point, it's taught us a lot more resilience. It's taught us to have more empathy with our colleagues and coworkers. But on the other hand, it is also contributing to many more women around the world dropping out of the workforce, because traditionally, if someone has to focus a little more on the children and homeschool and things like that, and traditionally in most households, it's the woman. And I fear that maybe we're not going to see the immediate results of that this year, but we'll see that 5-10 years from now when there are fewer women going up the ranks in executive positions. So if you're a parent out there struggling in this world listening to this keynote, hang in there. We're all in this boat together, and both worlds, professional world and your family world, both need you very much right now. I want to take you back 1 year in my life, because 1 year ago was one of the greatest professional days of my entire life. Now, I mentioned to you that I love theater. I started, after I left Facebook, as a side hustle a little bit, I started producing Broadway theater. And my side hustle kind of grew and grew and grew into a bigger part of my professional life. Last year, I was honored at the Tony Awards, which is one of the biggest award shows for theater. I won 2 Tony Awards for excellence in producing theater. It was an incredible moment for me. My parents were there. They have known my whole life how much theater means to me. And I decided after that date, I was like, I'm going to double down on live entertainment. This is my year. I actually went out, I raised a multi-million-dollar fund to invest in live theatrical entertainment around the world. And then we all know what happened. In March 2020, boom, canceled. The entire industry shut down. Here I was with this fund, with 7 Broadway shows I was producing, and the entire theater industry ground to a close. That was a very challenging moment for me, but I felt lucky that I had experiences like that in my life that I could rely on, because all around me, people were panicking. But I thought, okay, this is another moment of getting uncomfortable and resilient and changing the industry you're in. I'm reminded of a quote by Winston Churchill that I love, that says, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." What do we mean by this? What do we mean by never let a good crisis go to waste? Well, sometimes it is in these very moments of crisis that the biggest innovation happens, because we are forced to get out of our comfort zone and try new things that we maybe never would have tried if we were just trucking along in a comfortable way. Remember this, When the iPhone came out, I don't know, maybe some of you do, some of you don't, but I remember it very clearly because the new iPhone was, I think, that day that the iPhone launched was one of the most similar experiences that I had in my career to what's happening now. We all went to bed in Silicon Valley one night in June 2007 with almost all of our customers using our products on desktop and laptop computers. We woke up the next day to a new world where almost half of our customers were now on mobile devices. That's how quickly the iPhone changed the world and changed customer behavior. And we were all left scrambling in Silicon Valley. Half the tech companies said, no, 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 this is just a fad. We're not going to change the way we do things. We're just going to ride it out and kind of double down on what we're doing and wait for the iPhone to go away. But we were in the other half of companies that said, no, we think consumer behavior has changed for good. So we need to completely rethink our business model from scratch, retrain our engineers, and redo our company for a mobile world. It was difficult, it was challenging. We had to fight some of our investors who didn't want us to give up on some of our money-making potential right now to change our company, but we were a better company for it. We were a better company for getting uncomfortable and for realizing that consumer behavior had changed, even though we took a hit to our bottom line. The companies that thought it was just a fad, well, none of them are in business anymore. So I think right now is a moment to really reflect on how consumer behavior is changing for good and think about how we need to change our businesses and our lives in order to accommodate that. Here are a few of my favorite examples of businesses that took an uncomfortable pivot. Michael Mina is an Egyptian chef. He has won several Michelin stars. That's the highest honor that you can win as a chef. And what that means is that a Michelin star chef obsesses over every detail of the dining experience, from the scent and aroma to the types of china that you dine on. And well, in a pandemic, people aren't really sitting in a Michelin star restaurant. So Michael Mina had to kind of re-envision overnight what casual fast food looked like coming from his restaurant, which is not something that a lot of Michelin star chefs are prepared to get out of their way of their own ego and do that. A lot of restaurants actually turned into grocery stores overnight. They saw that people were struggling to find different products and food products in stores, and so they turned into grocery stores for local communities. Here's a bar in Maryland in the US that found a very creative solution to social distancing by putting each person inside their own bumper table in order to ensure that people could not get close enough to one another to spread the virus. Schools all around the world have thought of different innovative ways of keeping children safe indoors, especially young children who have challenges wearing masks and keeping distancing. Religious services all over the world have gotten very creative with drive-through religious services where you drive up in your car to receive a prayer, or services in the middle of giant parking lots. It's been really exciting and innovative to see what different groups have done around the world. But my favorite pivot during this time comes from a small goat farm in California. That's right, you heard that correctly, a goat farm. This adorable goat farm in California found themselves on the brink of going out of business. They were very reliant on schools paying to come and do field trips, on visitors coming and buying tickets, and suddenly no one was coming. And they thought, how are we going to keep our doors open and stay in business? But they thought, okay, well, everyone is doing these Zoom and web conferences right now. What if we made our goats available to join corporate video meetings? So they launched a service called Goat to Meeting, where you could actually book a goat, a llama, a pig to come into your corporate video conference for 10 minutes and be there.
I have to say, I actually hired one of their llamas, Dalai Lama, to come join a video conference, and I think it was the most fun that we've ever had in a kind of a business video conference. Everyone was taking screenshots and smiling and asking questions. The farm was actually so successful with this initiative, they had to recruit 140 other farms across the United States to make their animals available also. And even with that many farms, there was still a 1-month waiting list to get an animal into your Zoom. So if a goat farm in California can pivot and make the most of this crisis, surely all of us sitting here can do the same. So I think it's time to acknowledge that consumer behavior has changed. It's time to get uncomfortable, to try new things, to experiment with ideas that maybe we never would have done before. Now, I've seen so much change in my career. During my time at Facebook, I witnessed every single industry changing around us. I witnessed the shift from desktop to mobile computing, as I mentioned. I witnessed a change of celebrities speaking directly to their audiences for the first time through things like Facebook Live. I witnessed information flowing faster and farther than ever before. I mean, we're talking massive shifts across every single industry. Times like this are uncomfortable, but they're also a gift. They do not come often when we're forced to try new things. And so why don't we have the mindset of thinking about where are the opportunities in all of this? Now, I've outlined a few opportunities that I wanted to share with you today. There are so many more besides the 5 that I'm going to share with you, but this is just to hopefully spark some thoughts and enthusiasm. There's a massive opportunity with e-commerce right now. The pandemic didn't stop us from shopping, it just stopped us from shopping in person. So all of that money, all of that spending and shopping moved online. Now, I've actually seen that during this lockdown period, there was such a major spike in e-commerce that it actually accelerated e-commerce growth 5 years ahead of all the fitness equipment. If they can't go to gyms, cooking devices, they're cooking more at home, medical supplies, books and toys for their children, you name it, people are buying it online. So what does this mean? It means that it's time for you to boost up your e-commerce profile and to try new, interesting ways of connecting with customers online. On this slide, you'll see a picture of me trying on earrings, but those earrings weren't actually on me. I was doing it through augmented reality. It was a virtual earring try-on from a company called Accessory Junkie, where you could go on their website and try on earrings from designers all over the world through AR. And that was one of the most exciting things that I had seen in e-commerce and shopping. And it was such an engaging way to find a new brand. Even luxury, people were asking, is luxury dead? You know, with everyone working from home and nowhere to go, no one's dressing up, is luxury shopping dead? Actually, even luxury commerce remained high and remained a high growth category. It's just that companies had to pivot what they were doing. I mean, who would have thought that the face mask would be the new it fashion accessory for 2020? But you know, now there are millions of stores selling designer face masks across the world in different ways. I think another huge opportunity is in logistics and supply chain, moving these purchases. Now, we just talked about the rise of e-commerce, but one thing that we have not talked about enough is how those purchases get to us. And this is what broke down during the pandemic. There was so much breakdown of the supply chain. From shipping and logistics, we had, I think it really highlighted the fact that so many industries rely on supply from one foreign country, and that's it. They put all their eggs in one factory in another country, and when borders close and a pandemic happens, you just can't get your product. So we're starting to see the need to diversify, to find more local production, and for logistics to catch up to that. In the United States, we had people starving, but we had trucks full of food that was just wasting because there was a shortage of truck drivers to drive them. This is a huge opportunity right now, using technology to get into logistics, supply chain, and help make sure that this is better and that we're better prepared for future global crises. But it's not just moving purchases. I think we've also seen through this pandemic that there is a huge opportunity in moving data. Now, during the lockdown, governments and global health organizations like the World Health Organization teamed up with big tech companies all over the world to use data for important things like contact tracing, to detect potential carriers of COVID, to look at hotspots around the world. And we started to see really interesting uses of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain to help use all of this data in a way that was good for public health and safety. Data has also been used to track supplies, personal protective equipment that's had to move around the world. It's hard sometimes to verify the legitimacy of suppliers when you're across the world from them and keep the supply chain moving. But there are huge opportunities right now if you're working in AI, machine learning, big data, to analyze data around healthcare trends and different trends in this new normal. Blockchain continues to grow in importance as people, they want to make health data available, but they don't necessarily want governments to be tracking and tracing every activity. So I'm excited to see what all of you are going to be doing and thinking about with this new focus on data. There's also a huge opportunity in moving people around. People are desperate to start traveling again. They've been locked down for months. They want to get out and move, but it won't look the same. We have to understand that. There has to be a renewed focus on health and safety over saving time and convenience. So public transportation is going to look different. Leisure travel is going to look different. In the United States, we saw a huge boom in travel, but it was outdoor travel, camping, road trips, RV rentals and camper vans. Local travel became much more popular. We need to rethink what the business trips of the future will look like. I fear that the one-day business trip might be something that's a thing of the past, and conferences like this will be hybrid for a long time, which, you know, of course you really miss something when you're not there in person, but it also gives the opportunity to connect with thousands more people who maybe never would have had the chance to travel in the first place. I think the final opportunity that I wanted to discuss with you today, but is by far not the last opportunity that's out there, is the fact that so much of our lives are now remote. So there are huge opportunities in developments to improve remote life and work in this new world where the future of work is hybrid. I want to share a slightly funny, sad story. I have pictures here of myself giving keynotes from around the world from my living room. You know, that's fun, a little sad because I wish I was with you. The other photo is of my husband, who actually has worked remotely for about 4 years now. And when he first took his remote job, it was with a company with 1,000 people, and everyone was working from home. There was no headquarters. And we would tell people that, and they would be like, really? They'd be shocked. How could you do that? How could you have a company with 1,000 people with everyone working remotely? And actually, in February of 2020, he left that job and joined a new company because he missed being in an office with other people. He was excited to go back into an office and have colleagues, and then boom, the pandemic hit, and he was back at home again. And so now he's a bit of an expert in remote work, and it's kind of funny and sad that he left that company to be in an office, and now here he is, back running a company from across screens. But there are huge opportunities for all of us right now to think about how we help bring employees together and keep them motivated in a remote culture. And it's not just work. So many major life events are happening online. People are getting married through video conference. They're having birthdays.
big conferences like this, there are huge opportunities for all of us to think through what all of these events in our lives will look like for the years to come. My final message to you today, though, is one about balance, about unplugging, about taking care of yourself. This is a very stressful time that we're all living through right now, and I want to let you know that it's okay during these crazy times to give yourself permission to not be as hyper-productive as you usually are. In fact, this time, consider it like a gift to dig deep and really think about what's important to you, what you want to prioritize in life. Now, I've been prioritizing my time for many years, and in fact, I wrote a book about it. Because people have always asked me, Randy, with 3 children and a busy career and travel, how do you balance it all? And the answer is that I don't. Nobody does. I actually don't believe in work-life balance. What I believe in is being well lopsided. I think in any phase or moment of your life, you need to pick a few things to be focused on and be okay letting the other things go. You can't do everything every day or you're going to burn out. So I have a philosophy called Pick 3, and it goes like this. Work, sleep, family, friends, fitness. Pick 3. You cannot do all 5 of those things every day and expect to do them well. Now, you can change up the 3 that you're doing each day. You don't have to pick 3 and be stuck with them forever. But if you give yourself permission to say, you know what, this is a challenging time in the world, in our lives. I am going to just focus on 3 things and do them really well, and I'm not going to feel guilty or feel bad about the things I'm not doing. I think what you'll find is you'll be a lot happier, you'll be productive, and you'll actually be able to achieve excellence in the few things you're doing. Now, I guarantee if you sit there and you think, what are the moments in your life that you are most proud of, professionally or personally? I guarantee to you that those moments are not ones where you are well balanced. The moments of true pride and excellence comes when we allow ourselves to focus on a few areas of our life and go all in. And right now, in this new normal, this is one of those all-in times. Maybe you need to be all in on your family. Maybe you need to be all in on a new business. Maybe you need to be all in pivoting an existing business to survive. Maybe you need to be all in on your health right now or a loved one's health. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to adopt that Pick 3 lifestyle. It's been a huge pleasure being with all of you today. Again, I so wish that I was there in person in the hall, but I'm so grateful to technology and to the incredible team at Scope for allowing me to participate in IDEX 2020 from across the world. Please feel free to contact me. I'm on social media at Randy Zuckerberg. I love seeing your messages. I'm also available. I do a lot of advising and mentorship for startups around the world, business coaching. I like to say that I'm a professional mom to entrepreneurs around the world. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing all the incredible things you're going to do, and I hope you have a wonderful time at the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much, Randy. That was amazing. Thank you very much for your insights, the sharing, and I think that's really specific of what you've gotten into. We'd like to also mention that Professor Stefan Garelli's book, Are You a Tiger, a Cat, or a Dinosaur, as well as Randy Zuckerberg's book that you saw earlier, Pick 3, is available at the hall where you are for sale and purchase. I'm definitely going to be picking up a copy digitally. And with that, I guess I'll see you after the break. Over to you, Farah.
Thank you very much, Anita. I'll see you later at 2 p.m. So a great opportunity for all of us here at IDEX 2020. We have our moderator, Anita Wu, in Kuala Lumpur. Meanwhile, our emeritus Professor Stefan Garelli in Lausanne, Switzerland, and Randy Zuckerberg just now in Los Angeles. So we have everyone from across the world, ladies and gentlemen, joining IDEX. That's the beauty of technology. The pandemic doesn't stop us. So it doesn't matter where you are right now. You can watch us live via various media platforms. So please keep on tuning till the end of the conference. So we appreciate your kind support. So ladies and gentlemen, to all delegates here at BCCK, please kindly be informed that the summary of the IDEX keynotes can be viewed via infographic IDEX 2020 at the hall main entrance. And also we have on sale first the latest book from Stefan Garelli. All right, Are You a Tiger, a Cat, or a Dinosaur? And Randy Zuckerberg's Pick 3. You can have it all. Both books are on sale at IDEX booth at the foyer, as been informed by Anita just now. So please do not hesitate to visit IDEX booth, and we have limited stocks of the book too. So to everyone, and to those of you who are now watching us live via online, for information, IDEX 2020 application is now available and can be downloaded via Google Play, App Store, and App Gallery. So the app is providing you more insights on IDEX 2020. So please check it out and please have it downloaded onto your gadgets. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of us might feeling a little bit tired, but excited at the same time. So, yeah, you know, after the conference marathon since this morning, as we're catching up with our international speakers, having them to join us during their odd hours, which is almost impossible. But because of IDEX 2020, they give their full commitment. So, please, a big round of applause for our keynote speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to our speakers, and most importantly, thank you to all of you for staying around. So finally, we're now taking a break for lunch and Zohar prayer, and we'll be back with our keynote session at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So thank you very much for your kind attention.